Ito yung ano, yung parang dasal, parang dasal. Saan yun? Wala akong ballpen.
Pakuha tayo po. Ito rin, ito sa kasi yung amendment. Kasi ano ito terminated na yung ready na daw ang sige, mag-practice mo na. Yung privileges.
Session resumes. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up the reference of business and that the Secretary General be directed to read the same.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the Secretary General is directed to read the bills on first reading for referral to the appropriate committees.
Additional reference of business. Bills on first reading. House Bill 7589, extending the effectivity of the Rent Control Act of 2009 by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Housing and Urban Development.
House Bill 7590, expanding unemployment benefits for involuntarily unemployed workers by Representatives Gaite, Zarate, Culiamat, Castro France, Brosas, and Elago.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 7591, mandating local government infrastructure projects to have an allotment of at least 10% of the total project cost for labor-intensive items of work to be called COVID-19 items of work by Representative Sarmiento.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 7592, amending Sections 28, 38, and 39 of the Magna Carta of Public Health Workers by Representative Cabochan.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 7593, strengthening the national preparedness and response to public health emergencies by Representative
To
Cabochan.
the Committee on Disaster Resilience.
House Bill 7594, developing further the capability and establishing expeditious transformation of the DND and its bureaus by Representative Cabochan.
To the Committee on National Defense and Security.
House Bill 7595, expanding the coverage of the mandatory basic immunization program and providing a system in the determination of other types of vaccine-preventable diseases by Representative Cabochan.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 7597, establishing the Municipal Agriculture Information System by Representative Cabochan.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill 7598, establishing resource centers for indigenous cultural communities, peoples to enhance delivery of essential services by Representative
To
Cabochan.
the Committee on Indigenous Cultural Communities and Indigenous Peoples.
House Bill 7599, expanding the coverage of the unemployment benefit provided by the SSS by Representative
To the
Cabochan.
Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization.
House Bill 7600, establishing the Philippine High School for Creative Arts System by Representative Tambuntin.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 7601, providing for a Magna Carta of Commuters by Representative Tambunting.
To the Committee on Transportation.
Resolutions. House Resolution 1188, directing the Committee on Human Rights to investigate the killings of 9 Moro farmers near the University of Southern Mindanao main campus in Cabacan, Cotabato by Representatives Culiamat, Zarate, Gaite, Brosas, Castro France, and Elago.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1189, urging the Committee on Agriculture and Food to inquire on the status and repercussions of implementing Fisheries Administrative Order Number 264, Series of 2020, issued by the DA by Representative Kabatbat.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1190, condemning in the strongest manner the acts of terror perpetrated in the twin bombings in the Holosulu and expressing our deepest sympathies to the families of the victims of the terrorist incident by Representative Cabo-Chan.
To the Committee on Public Order and Safety.
House Resolution 1191, directing the Metro Manila Development Committee to investigate the current water levels at Angat Dam, La Mesa Dam, and other water resources for Metro Manila, and the saving measures to be implemented by water concessionaires to prevent another water crisis by Representative Martinez.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1192, urging the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability to inquire on the various alleged actions of the ERC by Representative Herrera D.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 1193, urging the appropriate House Committee to investigate the sad state of Philippine internet speed and connectivity by Representative Herrera D.
To the Committee on Rules.
Communications. Letter dated 25 June 2020 of BSP Governor Benjamin E. Jocno, submitting to the House a hard copy of their status report on the Philippine financial system covering the second semester of 2019.
To the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
Letters, email, and memorandum from several municipal mayors, city mayors, and provincial governors informing the House on their reports on fund utilization and status of programs, projects, activities, implementation relative to Bayanihan Grant to cities and municipalities and to provinces for certain months of 2020.
To the Committee.
July 2020, Dr. Malyari, Tarlac State University, submitting to the House a copy of their 2019 annual report.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
Letter dated August 10, 2020 of Maria Catalina E. Cabral, USEC for Planning and Public-Private Partnership, Office of the Secretary, DPWH, submitting to the House the project briefers as of July 25, 2020, including the list of priority projects of PPP of the DPWH and TRB for implementing, ongoing, and completed by the DPWH.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
Letter dated 1 September 2020 of BSP Deputy Director Janice G. Aizonzales, Office of the General Counsel and Legal Services, transmitting to the House duly certified electronic copies of certain BSP issuances.
To the Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries.
2019 Annual Audit Report on the Central Luzon State University.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
2019 Annual Audit Report on the Aurora Pacific Economic Zone and Preferred Authority, Casiguran, Aurora Province.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
2019 Annual Audit Report on the Aurora State College of Technology, Baler, Aurora.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
Additional reference of business committee reports, reports of the Committee on Legislative Franchises on House Bill Number 7615, 7616, and 7618.
To the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we leave of the House. I move we open the privilege hour in spite of today being a Wednesday and not a Monday. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, in consultation with the minority, I move that we open the privilege hour for a non-extendable 1 hour because of the fact that we have a lot of items on our agenda. I repeat, Mr. Speaker, with consultation with the minority, I move that we open the privilege hour for a non-extendable 1 hour. So move, Mr.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the Chair declares a 1 hour non-extendable privilege hour. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move we recognize the Honorable and Distinguished Deputy Speaker, A.V. Escudero, to avail of the privilege hour. So move.
The Honorable E.V. Escudero, Deputy Speaker and 1st District Representative of Sorsogon, is hereby recognized for her privileged speech.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, my dear colleagues of the 18th Congress, ladies and gentlemen. Today, let us remember and also Ganons, whose lives she touched along the way. We will miss her humble presence here at the plenary and also in Sorsogon. I would like also to express our sincere appreciation and thanks to DOH Director Gloria Balboa, House Committee on Health Chairperson Dr. Helen Tan, the Civil Defense Director Edgar Posadas, to the Lung Center Director of the Philippines, and to our NPC family for trying their best to arrange a military air ambulance for Tita Didas, but to no avail, and to all others who helped in their own way. Before we observe a moment of silence, I would like you to ask, and I would like to ask you to please watch the ABP Be Prepared to remember our dear Congresswoman Tita Ditas Ramos. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Session suspended.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
May nakalista ba ako?
Session resumes.
Tita dito, sa liwanag. Tita baby.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that our distinguished colleague, Deputy Speaker Baby Arenas, be recognized for her manifestation.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and the Honorable Baby Arenas is recognized for her manifestation.
Good afternoon, Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the House of Representatives mourns the loss of one of the finest members of the 18th Congress, Sorsogon 2nd District Representative Maria Bernardita Tita Ditas Ramos. Also a close friend not only to me, but to many lady legislators whose lives just touch for her grace and silent strength. This was her first term. It was too short. However, we made up for it with our frequent get-togethers in Congress and outside Congress. We kept in touch, and it filled my heart to see her attending our plenary session on Zoom, looking hale and healthy. One of our last moments together was when Tita Ditas, Deputy Speaker Ibe Escudero, a few other lady legislators, and myself trooped to Las Piñas to pay our respects to the miraculous Santo Niño del Providencia. There, we prayed together for Tita Dita's healing and recovery, who at that time was undergoing chemotherapy. It looked like she was going to beat cancer, but unfortunately, she could not overcome this cruel virus. On behalf of the members of the Association of Women Legislators, I express our deepest sorrow for the passing of Tita Ditas and also for another member, the late Marisa Andaya, and for the others who are not with us anymore. In Congress, Tita Ditas was loved and revered. We are heartbroken, but her memories will live on in our hearts forever. Maraming salamat po.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other representative who wishes to manifest or interpolate, I move that we refer the very heartfelt and endearing privileged speech of the Honorable Deputy Speaker Evie Escudero to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Escudero, along with the manifestations, are referred to the Committee on Rules. But before we end the privileged speech of the Honorable Escudero, I request everyone to please rise for a minute of silence in tribute to our colleague, the Honorable Maria Bernardita Ditas B. Ramos. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the distinguished gentleman from the 5th District of Quezon City, the Honorable Alfred Vargas, for his privileged speech. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
I did not. The Honorable Alfred D. Vargas, the representative of the 5th District of Quezon City, is recognized for his privileged speech.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues of this august chamber, good afternoon. Before I proceed with my speech, the people of Novaliches, the 5th District of Quezon City, would like to express our deepest condolences to the family of Congresswoman Ditas Ramos. May she rest. And now moving forward, film and TV create stars, dictate fashion trends, influence taste, define pop culture, and as visual media showcase and immortalize beautiful, historical, important places. From the Iguazu Falls of Argentina to Phuket in Thailand, to Australia's Gold Coast, Hong Kong's skyline to New York City's Empire State, to Africa's Kalahari, all have been seen on screen countless of times, over and over through the years. They have been seen through varying sets of lenses from different perspectives of people from different nations. Same places, each time viewed differently. Foreign productions keep on going back. Sometimes because the story calls for it, other times maybe because they just want to go back. Maybe because they had a great experience while shooting, or simply because it was economically sound and convenient to do so. 8 years ago, in 2012, Filipinos were thrilled when Hollywood stars Jeremy Renner and Rachel Weisz arrived in the Philippines to shoot the action thriller film, The Bourne Legacy. News crews staked out at shooting locations in Manila to catch a glimpse of the international stars. Capping off their stay in the Philippines, the Bourne Legacy team even paid a courtesy call at Malacanang. The Bourne Legacy's promotion of the Philippines from Metro Manila's rugged charm to Palawan's picturesque paradise was hailed as a catalyst that would draw more foreign productions to shoot in the country. It did, but not quite. Almost Paradise, an American crime drama series which premiered last March, was shot entirely in the Philippines. But the country missed out on becoming a shooting location for the latest installment of Tom Cruise's action franchise Mission Impossible. According to reports, producers of Mission Impossible took interest in shooting in the Philippines sometime in 2019. This, however, did not push through, and the production instead went to Thailand to shoot. Bakit nga bang hirap tayong mahikayat? Ang mga banyaga nagmuha ng pelikula sa Pilipinas. Mayaman naman tayo sa magagandang tanawin. World class ang ating beaches. Dagdag pa riyan, magaling mag-Ingles sa mga Pinoy at magagaling ang ating mga artista. I believe, Mr. Speaker, that the problem lies in the lack of incentives for filmmakers and producers. According to reports, one of the reasons why the Mission Impossible team chose Thailand over the Philippines was due to its attractive incentives program, which includes tax rebates of up to 20%. There's an additional 2% discount if the film promotes Thai tourist spots. Compare that to the Philippines, where rebates for film projects are capped at 10 million pesos, or roughly $206,000. That is loose change for filmmakers with multi-million-dollar budgets. Mr. Speaker, magastos po ang paggawa ng pelikula. Hindi lang sa talent fee ng mga artista at sweldo ng crew na pupunta ang budget. Kailangan magrenta o bumili ng equipment na gagamitin sa shooting. May bayad rin ang bawat lokasyon ng shoot. Kung may visual effects na kailangan sa pelikula, lalong tataas ang production cost. Kaya naman natural lang sa producers na piliin bilang shooting location ng mga lugar na may magagandang incentives. Mas maraming rebates, mas makakatipid sa production. Mr. Speaker, I believe it's time that we take film tourism seriously. And we can only promote Philippines as an attractive destination for foreign productions if we enhance our film incentives program. Sampu ng aking mga kasamahan dito sa Kongresong mahal ang industriya ng pelikula, we will be filing a bill to boost incentives and perks for both local and foreign productions. The proposed Film Philippines Act will institutionalize the grant of cash rebates to qualified foreign film and television productions. Foreign nationals working on these projects will also be eligible for a multiple entry visa, which will be valid for 1 year but can be extended for 180 more days. The bill will also allow foreign filmmakers to also bring their equipment here tax-free, provided that these cannot be obtained domestically. Of course, equal support will be given to local film and television productions. The bill will mandate local government units to set aside half of the revenues from the collection of amusement taxes to incentivize shooting of film and television programs in their respective jurisdictions. A Film Philippines Office or FPO will be established to promote the Philippines as a viable filming location for foreign film and television productions. The proposed agency will also establish a one-stop shop to process applications for the incentives, as well as help foreign filmmakers secure the necessary permits to shoot here. The FPO will also lead the promotion of local films and TV programs overseas, as well as link foreign productions to local talents and suppliers for their filming needs. With better incentives in place, I believe, Mr. Speaker, that it's only a matter of time before the Philippines becomes a prime location choice for foreign filmmakers. The country will enjoy a renaissance as a destination for foreign film and television productions. I say renaissance because there was a time when some of Hollywood's blockbuster films were shot in the Philippines. The 1979 war film, Apocalypse Now, which won in Cannes Film Festival, had scenes shot in Aurora, Laguna, and Zambales. Platoon, another war film starring Charlie Sheen and Willem Dafoe, was shot in Cavite and Laguna in 1986. The movie went on to win the Oscar and Golden Globe for Best Picture. Making the Philippines an attractive filming location would result in a tourism boom. This already happened in New Zealand, where the small town of Matamata has become a must-visit destination for tourists as the home of the Hobbiton, where the Lord of the Rings movies were filmed. The hit television series Game of Thrones has also led to a surge in tourist arrivals in Croatia. Nangyari na rin po ito sa Pilipinas. Naging patok sa mga turista at isla ng Karamoan sa Kamsur. Dahil dito, sinote ang reality TV series na Survivor, Karamoan, noong 2012. Ang nag-iisang hotel dati, noong 2006, naging 23 na po. Ang pag-unlad ng Karamoan hindi rin mangyayari sa ibang bahagi ng bansa. Pwede rin mangyari sa ibang area ng ating mga bansa. Pwedeng makasama sa bucket list ng mga turista at mga isla, beach, bundok at bayan na makikita nila sa pelikula. The Philippines will also reap tremendous economic gains if more foreign productions will film here. And I'm not just talking about tourism jobs that will be created in locations where films and television series will be shot. Foreign crews will surely tap our talented Filipino artists and professionals for production, like what happened when The Bourne Legacy was filmed here. The Hollywood film contributed $20 million or approximately 1 billion pesos to the economy by way of hiring a local production crew and spending on other filming requirements. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we would be able to showcase Filipino craftsmanship if we could entice more foreign productions to shoot here. The list of skilled Filipino filmmakers, visual artists, actors, and professionals is endless. Aside from economic gains, we will also benefit from exposure to the new production technologies that foreign crews will bring. This in turn will allow us to improve the production of our own movie and TV shows. Heaven gifted us with an array of spectacular natural resources. We have the innate kindness of our people. These need to be shared with the people of the world and viewed by them through their lens. Then the beauty and kindness will be magnified. The fun in the Philippines is more than what the eyes can behold. It is the experience of enveloping the beauty of our natural assets with our brand of hospitality. The demand for audiovisual content is growing as the audience number is expanding exponentially. Let our resources, natural and human, be essential parts of this equation. We can be an imperative. We should be. Hindi lang ang industriya ng pelikula ang makikinabang sa pagpapabuti ng mga incentive para sa foreign production. Uunlad ang buong bansa. Oras nang ipakita natin ang ganda ng Pilipinas at galing ng Pinoy sa mundo. Inaasahan po namin ang suporta ng lahat ng kinatawan nitong Kongreso. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we are one and the same. This representation is fully supportive of the very meaningful, privileged speech of the Honorable Alfred Vargas, my colleague from the Quezon City, in supporting our fellow men and fellow women in the entertainment industry to uplift their plight of their living and their lives. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Deputy Speaker Vilma Santos Recto for her manifestation of support.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The Honorable Vilma Santos is recognized for her manifestation of support.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, before anything, sa pangalan po ng lungsod ng Lipa, ang taus-puso po naming pakikiramay ay ipinapaabot po namin sa pamilya po ni Congresswoman Titas Ramos. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to make this manifestation. Allow me to congratulate Congressman Alfred Vargas for his privileged speech, for bringing to the attention of this chamber the potentials and concerns of the Philippines film and TV industry, as well as the need to provide our filmmakers the necessary support and assistance by providing incentive programs. Malaki po ang pasasalamat ko sa entertainment industry. Siyam na taong gulang pa lamang po ako, ay miyembro na po ako ng industriyang ito. Ito po ang nagbigay sa akin kahit paano ng pangalan at ganoon din po bumuhay sa akin at sa akin pong pamilya. Kaya't hindi ko po maitatanggi na malapit po ang industriyang ito sa puso ko. Sa halos mahigit na 5 dekada ko pong pagiging aktres, ay napakarami na pong mga pelikula at programa sa television po ang aking nagawa. I have seen and experienced how the industry has changed and evolved through the decades. Napakarami ko na rin pong nakilalang mga magagaling, mga abilidad, masisipag, at malikhaing mga talento sa larangan po ng pelikula at telebisyon. Nakita ko na rin po at naranasan ko na ang ilan sa mga problema sa industriya mula po noon. Marami na rin pong mga ginawang reforma at solusyon. Ngunit hanggang ngayon ay marami pa rin pong problema ang aming pong industriya. Kailangan pa rin po ang malaking tulong ng ating pong pamahalaan. Naniniwala po akong marami tayong mga solusyong pwedeng ilatag pa at pag-aralan para lalo pa hong mapagtibay ang industriyang ito. Gaya ni Congressman Alfred, na isa ko rin pong kasamahan sa industriya, lubos ko pong sinusuportahan ang panukalang naglalayong pong linangin at palakasin ang film and TV tourism dito po sa ating bansa. Mabigyan pa ho natin ng mas maraming insentibo ang ating mga filmmakers, particular na po ang ating mga local and independent filmmakers. Just for the record, I know that the sector of film industry and the creative industries have many workers, including the freelancers and those of the informal sectors. At ang mga manggagawa pong ito ay hindi rin po nakaligtas sa pagkakalugmok po na dulot ng pandemyang COVID-19. Marami po sa sektor na ito nawala na rin po ng trabaho at malaking-malaki na ang itinatayang ikinalugi ng industriyang ito. Dagdag pa ang mga bilang na yan sa bilyong-bilyong pisong nawala sa ating pong ekonomiya at milyon-milyon po na nawala ng trabaho dahil po sa krisis na ating pong hinaharap. With this pandemic, I believe that this will take a long time to recover. But the most important thing to do is to plan as early as now. Ibig sabihin po nito, pagbalik na po natin sa normal at naging ayos na po ang lahat, mayroon po tayong plano na pagbabatayan pagdating po sa sektor na ito. Kung kaya't ngayon pa lang, magandang panahon na po para buhayin po natin at pagtibayin pa natin ang sektor na ito upang kahit paano ay makabangon muli. Kung mahihikayat po natin muli ang mga producers natin, mapa-international man o lokal, na gumawa po ng mga pelikula o mga programa sa iba't ibang rehiyon natin at ipakitang magagandang tanawin at lugar sa ating bansa, mas lalo pa ho makikilala ang Pilipinas at ang ating mga distrito bilang prime filming locations. Magkakaroon po ito ng karagdagang kita ang ating pamahalaan at magbubukas pa po ang napakaraming oportunidad at trabaho para po sa ating mga kababayan. But as we make the Philippines more competitive when it comes to attracting international film productions, we should also provide incentives and mechanisms that would encourage foreign filmmakers to invest in the Philippines and also to help our local and indie movie industry. Sa kasalukuyan po ay meron po tayong mga inisyatibo na galing po sa FDCP or Film Development Council of the Philippines. Ito po ay ibinibigay sa ating po mga international film productions. May mga ibinibigay din pong suporta o tulong ang FDCP at iba pang ahensya sa mga pelikula at programang Pilipino. However, we need to institutionalize programs that will help our film and TV productions. We need to give more support to the industry. I agree that one way to do this is to create an office, the Philippine Office. We need to have an office that will focus on the matters affecting film and TV and television industry, the office that has a regular budgetary support from Congress, the office that would promote and market the country as a filming location, support local productions, provide cash rebates for grants, and join the hiring of local production crew members as a priority. Procure high-quality equipment and facilities in order to compete with the present technology in film productions. Train workers in the industry, capacitate them, act and assist on the concerns of our stakeholders, especially those from our local and indie movie industry. Mr. Speaker, gaya po ng sinabi ko at nabanggit kanina, maraming magagaling po at mga maabilidad at masisipag na local filmmakers sa ating pong bansa. Kailangan lamang po talaga nila ng karapatang suporta mula sa pamahalaan at natitiyak ko po sa inyo na sila po ay may pagmamalaki natin sa loob at labas ng bansa. Tulungan natin na lalo pang masanay ang kanilang mga talento, tulungan natin silang maiangat ang box office sales ng kanilang mga likha para makasabay naman tayo sa mga kakompetensya natin mga dayuhang pelikula at mga palabas po sa iba't ibang uri ng plataforma. Magaganda po ang mga programa at pelikulang Pilipino. Marami na rin po tayong mga pelikula at teleserye na naipalabas na po sa iba't ibang bansa. Marami na rin po dito ang umani po ng mga parangal mula po sa mga film festivals abroad. May mga nagawa na po tayong mga world-class na mga pelikula. Mayroon na rin po tayong mga nanalo sa abroad na magagaling nating mga direktor, manunulat at artista. Uulitin ko, kailangan lamang po talaga ang buong suporta ng pamahalaan sa industriyang ito. Alam ko pong magiging malaking tulong po sa kanila kung maisa sa katuparan po natin ang mga puntong ibinahagi ni Congressman Alfred Vargas. Kasama na rin po siguro yung mga puntong na ibahagi po. At ang mga ibabahagi pa ng ating mga stakeholders kung tayo po ay magsasagawa ng mga hearing at consultations sa hinaharap. On behalf of the Arts and Culture and Creative Industries Bloc, or ACHIEVE, led by the very hardworking, energetic, passionate Congressman Toph de Venecia, and to all the members of the said bloc, kasama na rin po yung mga kapwa kongresista na miyembro din po ng industriya, I call upon all of you, my dear colleagues, to support this initiative and measure. Excuse me. At sana, suportahan din po natin ang lahat po ng mga panukalang naglalayong tulungan at palakasin pa ang iba't ibang sining gaya po ng musika, teatro, the fashion and garments industry, pati na rin po yung mga katutubong sining, kasama na rin po ang larangan ng ating arkitektura. Malaki po ang maitutulong ng mga ito sa pagbangon po ng ating ekonomiya at sa pagyabong ng industriya at kulturang Pilipino. Let us all work together to help the Philippines' arts, culture, and creative industries. I hope that this Congress will give utmost attention and priority to this kind of measure. Muli ako po yung maasa sa inyong patuloy na suporta sa amin pong industriya, ang industriya po ng pelikula, ang industriya po na nagbibigay ng kasiyahan, inspirasyon, at pag-asa po sa bawat Pilipino. But Mr. Speaker, lastly before I end, excuse me, I would like to pay tribute to the woman whose efforts helped lay the foundation to make the Philippine movie industry competitive in the international market. Miss Maria Azucena Manay Ichu Vera Perez Maceda. The heart that truly belonged to the advancement of the Philippine cinema may have stopped beating the other day. But her legacy as one of the industry's pillars shall never be forgotten. Ang kontribusyon at pagmamahal ni Manay Ichu sa industriya ng pelikulang Pilipino ay kapuri-puri. At ang tulong niya para maiangat ang kalidad ng mga lokal na pelikula ay hindi po basta-basta masusukat. Kung meron man po tayong pwedeng itawag na the tireless frontliner sa industriya ng pelikulang Pilipino, yun po ay si Manay Ichu. She was also a second mother to me. I owe Manay Ichu a big part of what I have become today. Taus-puso po akong nagpapasalamat sa lahat po ng tulong at suporta niya sa akin, sa napakalaking tulong niya sa industriya at sa lahat po ng mga kabilang dito. Kaya Manay Ichu, maraming salamat. To the bereaved family, Manny Erwin, Congressman Edward, Ernest Edmond, her sisters, Congresswoman Manay Gina, Manay Bechay, Manay Chona, and the brother Kokoy, his nephew Kong Toph, who is spearheading the filing of a measure seeking to create office objective which sync with these years. Our deepest sympathies to all of you. Rest in eternal peace, Manay Ichu. Mahal na mahal ka namin at maraming salamat sa iyo, lalo't higit sa kontribusyon mo sa pelikulang Pilipino. Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize our beloved Deputy Majority Leader, Christopher Toph de Venecia, for his manifestation of support. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Toph de Venecia of Pangasinan is hereby recognized for his manifestation of support.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. I would like to express my gratitude to our esteemed members of the Arts and Culture and Creative Industries Bloc, or ACHIEVE, Congressman Alfred Vargas, and the pillar of our movie industry, Deputy Speaker Vilma Santos Recto, for raising awareness of the film industry and our proposed Film and Television Incentives Bill that they, alongside myself and Kong Kiko Benitez, worked on as a result of our meeting with the Philippine Motion Picture Producers Association, or PMPPA, and the Film Development Council of the Philippines, and that we as a bloc will be filing later this afternoon. A lot of what they have said and what they have mentioned rings true to me, especially since we have the shared experience of working in the industry, one that my grandfather, Lolo Pingot Vera Perez, started when he founded Sampaguita Pictures back in the golden age of Philippine cinema. It will be almost 6 months now since the government first imposed a strict community quarantine to prevent the spread of COVID-19. During this time, many of us turned to entertainment, foremost of which were films, TV shows, and music, to keep our sanities in check. I myself have been spending the remaining hours of each day watching a Filipino film every night, continuing on what Congresswoman Crystal Bagatsing mentioned last week of being Filipino first and supporting our own. I've alternated between classics that starred no less than our very own Congresswoman Vilma Santos Recto and contemporary films to build up my knowledge and familiarity with our cinematic heritage, even with issues confounding our society today. Following the announcement of the quarantine, many film production outfits released their films online for streaming, and some, like the Lockdown Cinema Club, used films to raise funds for their displaced workers. If anything, this pandemic has shown us the true spirit of bayanihan and how vital the products of our creative industries are, not only in reinvigorating our national consciousness, but ultimately ensuring our mental survival. It is therefore unfortunate that this industry that we owe so much to is struggling to keep afloat during these trying times. Bianca Balbuena, one of the Philippines' top independent producers, who has merited plaudits and awards for her films both here and abroad, shared with us, the film industry has not been sustainable and viable for a lot of companies, especially the independent film sector, even before COVID. As the virus continues to raise through the overall productivity and value chain of this sector, she mentioned the expensive costs of compliance with minimum health standards. This was further corroborated by PMPPA when they shared that there's an additional 30% top-up to a production's costs, not to mention the restrictive amusement tax, which has proven cumbersome to a film's economic viability. Not to mention that the industry was already hard-pressed prior to the pandemic due to digital disruption, rampant piracy, and depleting box office returns. Which begs the question, Mr. Speaker, kung lugi lang, bakit ka pa magpo-produce? These costs, coupled with the fact that movie theaters, a film's primary distribution platform, continue to remain closed as consumer confidence remains low and the fear factor among our people remains high, has all but crippled this sector of our creative economy. Amidst a rapidly changing landscape, the industry is also hindered by a lack of data on whether or not films and television shows that are shot straight to digital as part of the industry's pivot in the fourth industrial revolution, such as I Want TV's Love Lockdown, Star Cinema's Love Unlock, the currently running 4 Bad Boys and Me, Black Sheep's Hello Stranger, Idea First Company's Game Boys, and the gamut of Filipino BL or Boys Love series coming out of the woodwork during the quarantine are able to be sustainable. While we remain resolute in the need for the Eddie Garcia bill, as championed by our good friend Deputy Speaker Mikey Romero, to provide minimum welfare and health standards for our film, television, and radio entertainment workers, it is equally important, Mr. Speaker, that we provide developmental support to our film producers, especially as they take up the courage and mantle to produce in this unsteady climate and declining box office sales. One aspect of filmmaking that both the state as well as the private sector can look into is the global best practice of collaborating with international film outfits. Pedring Lopez, an award-winning film director, shared that he has been working with such entities on various capacities and shared that some have even expressed interest in migrating production to our local shores. This would be beneficial not only to our local film workers who would gain from the exposure and training, not to mention livelihood, but to our local economy as well. This could stimulate the growth of local businesses the way that Survivor has done for Karamoan. In order to attract foreign film and television companies to shoot in the Philippines, we have to be competitive with our incentives, gaya ng sabi ni Kong Alfred. Pedring Lopez has been working closely with the Film Development Council of the Philippines to avail of such incentives. But, even as echoed by Chair Liza Dino Segura and the agency itself, it's happened in the past that we've lost opportunities to our neighboring countries because they have recognized its socio-economic benefits and created highly competitive incentive packages. Dahil na rin sa maliit ang pondong inilalaan natin para sa Film Philippines Office, historically, may hangganan din ang incentives na ating naibibigay. Kaya't nananawagan tayo ngayon kay Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano, kay Deputy Speaker for Finance Ldrf Villafuerte, at kay APRO Chair Eric Yap, na bigyan po sana ng mas makabuluhang pondo ang ating film agencies tulad ng Film Development Council, pati na rin ang Cultural Center of the Philippines kung saan pinapalabas ang taunang Cinemalaya at ang National Commission for Culture and the Arts na may komite para sa pelikulang Pilipino para maging responsibo sila sa kanilang mandato at pangangailangan ng ating mga stakeholders. The bill would be of great service to the industry by empowering the Film Philippines Office to devise programs such as competitive cash rebates, multiple entry visas in consultation with the Bureau of Immigration, additional local incentives as provided for by local government units who would recognize the power of film and television in scaling up their domestic tourism, tax and duty-free importation for foreign film outfits, etc. But more than that, Mr. Speaker, this bill aims to provide the long overdue institutional support to our local film and television producers, the same way other countries like South Korea have been able to support theirs. This would service two key objectives. One, underwrite the cumbersome costs that producers have to incur through various stages of production when all they want is to contribute to our cinematic heritage. And number two, bolster tourism in the regions, the same way that a film like That Thing Called Tadhana has been able to do for Sagada. Ang batas po na ito, pag naipasa, kapartner ng bill na inihain ni Kong Alfred din at ni Deputy Speaker Ldrf Villafuerte na naglalayong magbigay ng cash grants para sa mga pelikulang mananalo sa mga festivals abroad ay tahasang makakatulong sa ating struggling film producers ngayon. Matagal na po naming na-finalize ang bill na ito at excited na nga po kaming i-file ito mamaya bilang isang block. Ngunit kahapon o nung Monday nang di inaasahan, ang industriya po ay nawala ng isang haligi at ilaw sa pagkatao ni Marichu Vera Perez Maceda o mas kilala sa pangalang Manay Ichu. Gaya ni Bianca at gaya ni Pedring, siya po ay naging film producer din. Siya ay aking tiya, ang nakakatandang kapatid ni Manay Gina, at ina po ng aking pinsan na si Congressman Edward Vera Perez Maceda. Namatay siya ng dahil sa kidney complications at heart disease. Ikinalulungkot po namin ng matindi ang kanyang pagpanaw at magiging mahirap po ang mga susunod na mga araw para sa aming angkan ng Vera Perez. Ngunit habang nakatayo ako ngayon sa harapan ninyo, hindi ko magawang makonekta ang layunin ng panukalang ito sa legacy na naiwan ni Manay Ichu. Manay Ichu was the executive producer of the iconic and critically acclaimed film Batch 81. She produced many other films like To Love Again, Pakawalan Mo Ako, at Jezebel. She also wrote films like My Blue Hawaii, Winter Holiday, and Umibig Ay Di Biro, and was a costume supervisor for the films Guy and Pip, Bahay Kubo Kahit Munti, Deborah, and Bikini Beach Party. I remember, Mr. Speaker, the talks we would have on how she loved the industry deeply and how she dedicated her whole life to it. She co-founded the Movie Workers Welfare Foundation or MOWEL Fund, the Metro Manila Film Festival na pinamumunuan ngayon ni MMDA Chair Danilo Lim, the Film Academy of the Philippines, the Philippine Motion Picture Producers Association or PMPPA, and the Experimental Cinema of the Philippines, among other storied institutions. I remember one of the stories she shared before about Batch 81. Despite its critical acclaim, it performed modestly in the box office, something that saddened her deeply, even if it is well enshrined in the world cinema canon. An experience I myself have had while producing for the theater. Sabi nga po ng composer na si Stephen Sondheim, art is not easy. Maliban kay Manay Ichu, marami po akong kilala na nagpo-produce ng dekalidad na mga pelikula ngunit hindi gaanong pumapatok sa takilya. Dahil sa mga gastusin, karamihan sa kanila ay nalulugi pa. Dahil po ba ito sa kamulatan ng taong bayan? Sa kawalan nila ng interes? Sa pagliit at pagkontrak ng merkado? Sa makabagong mga teknolohiya gaya ng Netflix? Sa kakulangan, sa kawalan ng intervention sa K-12 system? O sa kakulangan ng subsidiya at suporta mula sa gobyerno? Napakarami pong mga tanong, Mr. Speaker. Ngunit gaya po ng pagtugon natin sa mga pangangailangan ng ating mga manggagawa sa industriya, alalayan din po natin ang ating mga film producers. Sila po ang tumataya, sumusugal at naglalaan ng pondo at panahon kahit mahirap upang makapag-produce ng mga pelikulang kagigiliwan o magiging palaisipan ng ating mga manonood. Tulad ni Bianca Balbuena, Pedring Lopez at ni Manay Ichu, sila ang motor na nagbibigay lakas at kusa upang mapagpatuloy ang industriyang nag-100 years na po ngayong Setyembre. Kaya muli, papasalamat po ako kay Kong Alfred sa kanyang paninindigan at pagbibigay boses para sa industriya ng pelikula. Para po sa mga producer tulad ninyo, Manay Ichu, ang panukalang ito. At bago po ako magtapos, hayain ninyong basahin ko ang maikling mensahe ng aking pinsan na si Congressman Edward Maceda. Salamat sa lahat na nagparating ng magagandang salita at pakikiramay sa aming pamilya sa pagpanaw ni Manay Ichu. Kayo po ay parang pamilya na rin ng buong Vera Perez clan. Your words of love, affection, kindness, and support fills our hearts with courage to get through these difficult times. Manay Ichu may have passed, but she will remain alive forever in the hearts of her family and friends, as well as those whose lives she has touched. The voiceless she gave voice to, the powerless she empowered, and the weak that she has strengthened. Mahal po namin kayo, Mama Tutu, at hindi po namin kayo malilimutan. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker, sa ating mga colleagues, at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize Deputy Speaker Dan Fernandez for his manifestation. So move, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Dan Fernandez is recognized for his manifestation of support.
Maraming po salamat, Mr. Speaker. Hindi po to manifestation. I just wanted to ask some questions sa ating pong kaibigan at representante ng Quezon City, si Congressman Alfred Vargas. Is he willing to adhere to some questions, Mr. Speaker?
Gladly, Mr. Speaker.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Congressman Alfred, no, napakaganda ng iyong mga tinurang salita sa iyong privilege speech that it's the time for us to prepare, no? Especially doon sa nadinig ko kanina while going here, ay napakinggan ko yung mga binanggit mo tungkol doon sa mga lokasyon dito sa buong Pilipinas na kung saan ang ating pong mga foreign counterparts sa pagpaproduce ng pelikula ay ginagamit yung ating pong mga lokasyon. As a matter of fact, isa sa mga nadinig ko na sinabi mo ay tungkol doon sa Apocalypse Now, na kung saan iyon ay ginawa doon sa bayan na aking sinilangan, sa bayan ng Pagsangan. At natatandaan ko when I was still young by that time, ay andun sila Director Ford Coppola at marami pang mga foreign actors. Marami sa mga kababayan namin ang nabigyan ng trabaho at ginawa nilang pelikula almost I think mga 2 years or 3 years na matagal na panahon. At nakatulong na malaki sa industriya ng bayan ng Pagsangan. But kaakibat ng pagbibigay ng tulong sa isang area ay meron ding itong kaakibat na problema. And as a matter of fact, ay alam ko that sa grupo ng ASIB ay binibigyan natin ng solusyon yung mga ganitong klase ng problema as well. Sa ngayon ay on hold ang paggawa ng mga pelikula, paggawa ng mga programa sa telebisyon. At kung sakaling matutuloy ito, napakabigat ng isinasagawang preparasyon para may sakatuparan ang paggawa ng ganitong klase ng mga proyekto. Ang katanungan ko sa iyo, Congressman Alfred Vargas, in this kind of situation that we are into right now, we being a part of this industry, I think we have this responsibility to our co-workers to help them in an own little way. So palagay mo, paano tayo makakatulong dun sa ating pong mga kapwa manggagawa sa sektor ng paggawa ng pelikula at ng paggawa ng programa sa telebisyon?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I share the sentiment of the distinguished gentleman from Laguna. And as a matter of fact, totoo po na malaki ang problema natin ngayon sa panahon ng pandemyang ito. Ito pong ihahain natin na panukala ay long-term, ang gusto po natin ay long-term ang ating masosolusyonan. To answer the Honorable Gentleman from Laguna directly, ito pong Film Philippines bill ay makakatulong sa napakaraming paraan pagdating sa organizing, pagdating sa pagbibigay ng mga bagong opportunity, at pagbibigay ng proteksyon para sa ating mga manggagawa rin, kasama rin po yan. And pag-open up, hindi lang sa local possibilities in terms of artistic employment, kung hindi mag-open up din tayo, magamit tayong mga artista, mga production crew, sa mga international films. Dahil halimbawa, ako, nung napanood ko yung, medyo bata pa ako, yung The Beach, di ba, yung Leonardo DiCaprio, hinimok ako noon na magpunta ng Thailand. And na-enjoy ko yung Thailand. And I'm only one person, pero it can affect millions of other Filipinos and artists na katulad natin. On the other hand din naman, marami rin po tayong napabalitaan ngayon na nag-resume na ng mga taping, ng mga shooting, pero hindi pa rin po ganun kadami. Mr. Speaker, so far, if not all, majority or most of the productions that are running now who are exercising extreme discipline and social distancing and health and safety measures, ay so far po, sa maikling panahon na umaandar ang production, mukha pong successful. Ibig ko pong sabihin, we are having success in the entertainment industry dahil mukhang kaya pala natin mag-shooting habang umiiwas tayo makahawa ng COVID. So I think, Mr. Speaker, malaking indication ito, and I think this is also a perfect timing para po dito sa ating ihahain, ipafile na panukala mamaya. And I am one with Honorable Deputy Speaker Dan Fernandez sa kanyang sentimento.
At sa iyong mga tinura na Mr. Speaker, I believe that you're trying to imply that somehow we can explore to help our co-workers in the industry by conceptualizing this kind of preparation in the future while we are experiencing this problem that we are encountering right now. Will you agree with me, Mr. Speaker, that kasabay nung panukala mo, sa tingin mo ba kailangan din nating magbawas doon sa tinatawag nating mga excessive taxes that are being imposed to a lot of producers? Like for example, yung ating amusement tax ngayon that being imposed by the local government units. Meron tayo ni-impose dyan na 10% eh. And at the same time, sa mga withholding taxes natin, sometimes nadodoble yan according to some of the producers. Maganda yung tinutura natin doon sa ating i-file later on dahil meron tayong mga cash incentives na ibibigay sa mga producers at sa mga actors. But unfortunately, there are existing taxes that nakikita natin na nagiging burdensome sa ating pong mga producers. Don't you think that this is the right time for us to somehow change these taxes, considering the hardships that being experienced by our industry?
Mr. Speaker, yes, I share that very same sentiment. And actually, there's no better time than now, especially ngayon, tayong mga artist at mga production members, ang hinahanap natin ngayon, trabaho. And so what we really want to do is encourage productions, safe productions. And pagka dumami yung productions, gaya nga po ng sinasabi ng ating Honorable Deputy Speaker, mas maiengganyo yung mga producer ngayon at mas tatapang sila na sumugal ng sarili nilang pera, sarili nilang investment para sa isang pelikula o para sa isang TV. Di ba? So siguro, napakagandang paraan po ito para lalong ma-encourage kasi hirap na hirap po talaga ang entertainment industry sa panahon ngayon. And kahit ako po, I'm sure, pati si Deputy Speaker, pati sila Congressman Tof, sila DS Vilma Santos, marami na rin po kami mga kaibigan na naghihirap na po talaga ngayon. And lahat ng mga pwede natin itulong, kasama na dyan yung mga tax incentives, mga pagbabawas ng mga fees. I agree with all those proposals.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. At alam naman natin na mga LGU ngayon kailangan din ng pera. Dahil nga sa hirap ng nararanasan nila, ay yung mga taxes like these are badly needed by our LGUs. But aanhin mo naman yung mag-impose ng taxes sa mga producers, whereas kung hindi naman sila makakapag-produce ng pelikula, what's the sense of the amusement tax? Hindi po ba? So I think pag-aralan natin din mabuti na magkaroon tayo ng imposition sa kanila ng reduction ng kanilang mga taxes na sa gano'n naman ay somehow mararamdaman ng ating pong mga kapwa manggagawa sa industriya ng pelikula at telebisyon that somehow nagkaroon sila ng break sa tinatawag po nating mandatory taxes that are being imposed to them. Kanina nadinig ko po yung binabanggit tungkol sa Film Philippine Office. Napakaganda po to. At tunay na kailangan na ito na talagang palakasin, bigyan ng pondo. But we understand the situation of the national government as well. But if we are together here in fighting to put funds in this, palagay ko ay may sasakatukuparan itong mga pangarap, hindi lamang ni Congressman Top de Venecia, kundi lahat ng ating pong mga kapwa mambabatas na kasama rito. Kasama na rin po si Speaker Alan Cayetano. Nakakalungkot lamang, Mr. Speaker, dahil ang ating pong pinakamamahal na mother ni Congressman Edward Maceda, si Manay Itchu, na malapit din po sa akin, at kaibigan po natin ng kanyang anak na si Erwin Maceda, ay pumanaw na po. At malaki ang bahagi niya sa evolution ng ating pong industriya. At malaking kawalan ang kanyang pagpanaw. Ang aming pong pakikiramay sa buong pamilya ni Manay Itchu, and may she rest in peace. At sa tingin ko, Mr. Chairman, nasa tama po tayong direksyon. This is the right time to plan. And if God would allow that after a while na magkaroon na po ng vaccine at magkaroon na po ng open sa ating pong bansa at sa buong mundo, we can continue fighting to glorify our industry. Kaya, Mr. Speaker, Congressman Alfred Vargas at sa bumubuo ng Achieve ay congratulations for a job well done. We hope that we will be able to establish a fighting chance, not only in the whole Asia, but in the whole world. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker, at magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to acknowledge the Honorable John Marvin Yul Servo Nieto for his manifestation support.
The Honorable Nieto is recognized for his manifestation.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Speaker. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Ang representante po ito ay sumusuporta po sa ating kasama na si Kong Alfred Vargas para sa napakagandang salita para sa larangan ng arts and culture sa linya ng pelikula, telebisyon, na malaking bagay para sa ating bayan na maipakita ang ganda ng bawat pulo. Magbibigay ng kinang na maisama nila sa kanilang mga bucket list na mapuntahan. At dyan, magkisimulang puso ang galaw ng ekonomiya na galing sa labas ng ating bansa. At malaking tulong ito sa mga kababayan natin na magkaroon ng trabaho, hanap buhay, na bubuhay sa ating mga manggagawa sa lahat ng skill na tutugma sa kanilang pangangailangan. Gaya ng ibang bansa na sinabi ni Kong Alfred Vargas na ngayon ay nakamayagpag na sa larangan na mapapanood. Bilang parte po ng industriya, malaking bagay po ito. Kaya naman po kami po ay humihingi ng suporta para sa ating mga kasama na maisulong at mabusisi po at mapaganda ang batas na ito. At para sa pagdating ng panahon, ito po ay handa na. At kami po sa ikatlong distrito po ng Maynila ay nakikiramay po sa ating kasamang si Honorable Edward Maceda sa pagpano po ng ina po ng industriya. At sa ating kasama Congresswoman dito. Maraming salamat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Strike Revilla for his manifestation support.
The Honorable Strike Revilla is recognized for his manifestation of support.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Una po ay ang representasyon ito ay unay nakikiramay sa pamilya ng naiwan po ng ating kasama si Congresswoman Vipas Ramos at sa pamilya rin po, dati po natin Speaker, Arnulfo Puentebella at sa kasama po natin sa haligi ng pelikula, si Manay Ichu Perez Maceda. Kami po ay taon-puso po nakikiramay. This presentation from the 2nd District of Cavite, I would like to manifest my strong support to the privileged speech of the Honorable Gentleman from the 2nd District of Quezon City, Representative Alfred Vargas. Ang inyong pong lingkod ay nagmula sa pamilya po ng mga artista. Ang aking ama, the late Senator Ramon Revilla Sr., ay tinaguriang akiman ng masa. As his children, we are so proud of his achievements. As actor, director, scriptwriter, and as an artist as a whole. Ngunit hindi po dito nagtapos ang kanya pong pagmamahal sa industriya. My father believed that films could inspire people apart from providing entertainment. He founded Films Production in 1972, not only for his love of films, but also to give opportunities and livelihood to our countrymen and our fellow Caviteño in particular. Kami po ng aming ng aking pong mga kapatid have learned firsthand the value of hard work and professionalism from both our parents through their venture. Nakilala ang aking ama sa mga pelikula na papakita ng husay ng anting-anting. But more than this, his film showcased traits which Filipinos are known for, are resilient, love for God, for family, and bayanihan. What we have right now is a great opportunity to show our appreciation for an industry which has given us Filipinos so much. It's about time that we institutionalize and strengthen the Film Philippine Office under the Film Development Council of the Philippines by crafting meaningful measures to develop and promote film and television tourism and enhance our current film incentives program. Aside from promoting the Philippines as a prime filming location, it's also seek to develop enabling policies that will ease the procedure of procuring requirements and permits. Moreover, this gives equal importance to the impact of tourism to immediate communities. Unplanned tourism may result to environmental degradation and destruction to the lives of local people. And this bill seeks to prevent that through a sustainable film tourism program. Mr. Speaker, hindi po ako nagpapasalamat sa inyo pong lahat, sa inyo pong oras at let us continue to pray for one another and for our country. Manitali po tayong ligtas, kayo po ang ating pong pamilya at mga mahal sa buhay. Maraming salamat. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the speech of Representative Vargas, as well as the manifestations and interpellations thereon, be referred to the Committee on Rules.
Is there an objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the privileged speech of the Honorable Alfred D. Vargas, along with the manifestations of Deputy Speaker Vilma Santos, the manifestation of the Honorable Tof de Venecia, the interpellation of the Honorable Deputy Speaker Dan Fernandez, the manifestation of the Honorable Yul Servo Nieto, and the manifestation of the Honorable Striker Villa are hereby all referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we have a request from the minority to allow one of their members to avail of the privilege hour. And since our time has expired already, and to accommodate the request of our colleagues, we move that the privilege hour be extended for another 10 minutes.
Is there an objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the privilege hour is extended for another 10 minutes. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize our colleague from Party List Bayan Muna, Representative Euphemia Kulyamat, to avail of the privilege hour.
The Honorable Representative of the Party List Bayan Muna, the Honorable Euphemia C. Kulyamat, is recognized for her privileged speech.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chair. Ginoong Speaker, bago po ang aking collective privilege, nais pong ang Makabayan Block ay nais po namin ipapaabot ang taus-pusong pakikiramay at pakikidalamhati sa pamilya ni Congresswoman Maria Bernardita Ramos sa kanyang pagkawala. Isang mainit, nakakapanggarit na araw, Ginoong Speaker, mga kapwa ko mambabatas. Ginoong Speaker, tahasang pagbababoy sa dangal ng mga Pilipino, pagbaliwala sa kasarinlan at pagbabalahura sa katarungan ang paggawad ng absolute pardon ng Pangulo kay U.S. Land Corporal Joseph Scott Pemberton. Ang sundalong Amerikano na nambugbog at naglunod sa tubig ng kubita at nahasulang pumaslang sa isang Pilipino na si Jennifer Laudy. Ginoong Speaker, matatandaang pinilit nilang ilusot ang paglaya ni Pemberton ilang araw na ang nakalilipas sa pamamagitan ng pag-apply ng Good Conduct Time Allowance or GCTA. Agad naman itong sinalubong ng matinding galit ng mga Pilipino sapagkat hindi lamang hustisya para kay Laudi ang nakasalalay dito, kundi maging ang dangal at kasarinlan ng bayan ng bansa. Ginoong Speaker, ang mababang pagtingin at masahol na pagtrato ng mga sundalong Amerikano sa ating mga Pilipino sa sarili nating bayan ay usapin ng dangal ng buong bayan. Samantalang ang patuloy na pagpapatupad ng Visiting Forces Agreement na nagbibigay ng lubusang karapatan ng mga sundalong Amerikano na tumuntong sa Pilipinas para sa mga ehersisyong militar ay usapin ng kasarinlan ng ating bayan. Ginoong Speaker, dahil sa naunsyaning paglaya gamit ang GCTA, tuluyang nilantad ng Pangulo ang kanyang pagpapakatuta sa Amerika sa paggawad niya ng absolute pardon kay Pemberton. Inuna pa niya ang paglaya ng mga sundalong Amerikanong mamamatay tao sa ang matagal nang nakatapos sa sentensya na hindi pa rin lumalaya at mga bilanggong politikal na nasa kulungan dahil lamang sa gawa-gawang mga kaso. Ginoong Speaker, mahigpit ko pong kinukundina ang aksyon na ito ng Pangulo. Ito lamang po, Ginoong Speaker, mga kapwa ko mambabatas, maghandang hapon sa ating lahat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the privileged speech of the Honorable Kulyama to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The privileged speech of the Honorable Euphemia C. Kulyamat is referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to close the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. Motion is approved and the privilege hour is hereby closed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bills 7355, printed copies of which were distributed to the members. Pursuant House Bill number 7355 and 7499, pursuant to the rules of the House. For this purpose, Mr. Speaker, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter to call the roll for nominal voting.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. Motion is approved and the Secretary General is directed to read the titles of House Bill 7355 and 7499 and thereafter to call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill number 7355, an act renaming Marawi Maging Bumbaran Wow Road, stretching the city of Marawi, traversing through the municipality of Magwim, Bumbaran, and Wow, all in the province of Lanao del Sur, as Governor Mamintal M. Adjong Sr. National Road. House Bill number 7499, an act renaming Del Monte Avenue, traversing barangays Nayong Kanluran, Paltok, Paraiso, Del Monte, Damayan, Masambong, Talayan, Manresa, Siena, St. Peter, San Jose, and NS Amoranto, located in Legislative District 1 of Quezon City as Fernando Po Jr. Avenue. Roll call of members in consideration of House Bill number 7355-7499. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Zaldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Almonte, Alvarez France, Alvarez Sinaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentada, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyes Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Bersaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista, Bendigat, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Bravo, Bordado, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Cabochan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cawagdan, Cari Castelo, Castro France, Castro Fredinil, Cayetano, Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetano, Maria Laarni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalauco, Angelica, Co Elizalde, Cuanco, Colyantes, Crisologo, Cuwa, Quaresma, Cueva, Colyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Dasa, Desus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Delmar, De Los Santos, De Los Montalia, De Maporo, Abdullah, De Maporo, Muhammad Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael III, Di Ian Paul, Ebcas Ecleo, Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhay, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas, Ria, Fariñas, Rudy, Caesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer, Juliet, Fer Luis, Flores, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia, Jose Enrique, Garcia, Pablo Jan, Garcia, Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato, Heron, Edgo Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales, Aurelio Dong, Gonzales, Neptali, Gonzales, Sandro, Goroseta, Gico, Gullias, Guya, Haresco, Ataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Haluso, Xavier Jimenez, Co, Elisa, Co, Wilton, Conjun, Labad, Lacson, Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara, Lasatin, Liachon, Legardo, Limlim, Kaichong, Lopez, Loyola, Losotan, Makapagal, Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Magunda, Dato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad, Nagaño, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles, Jericho, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Nunez, Malañaon, Waminal, Olivares, Once, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Juan Dizon, Pacquiao, Alberto, Pacquiao, Rogelio, Padiernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza Puno, Kimbo, Radasa, Ramirez, Sato, Rimulya, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman, Romero, Romualdez, Ferdinand, Romualdez, Sieda, Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salcedo, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sancopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulug, Savillano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing, Estrida, Swansing, Horacio, Suarez, Aleta, Suarez, David, Suntay, si Alvarado, Taduran, Talyado, Tambunting, Tanalisa, Tanangelina, Tanshamir, Tanshari, Tansherni, Tejada, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas, Chutor, T. Alan T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Nabia Ungab, Uy Juliet, Uy Rolando, Valmayor, Valeriano, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villafuerte, Villanueva, Brother Eddie, Villanueva Noel, Villarasa, Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Eric Yap Victor, Yu Zamora, Ronaldo Zamora, Waikorat, Zarate, Zubiri. Second call for House Bill number 7355 and 7499. Abante, Abaya, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Barzaga, Brosas, Bulot, Quaresma, Co Elizalde, Culyamat, Di Faustino Ino, Flores, Fortun, Guya, Co Wilton, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Nunez Malañaon, Ong Jose, Ortega, Liachon, Pineda, Remulla, Sagarbaria, Salo, Silverio Singson, Tan Shamir, Tan Sherni, Tejada, T. Alan, Villa, Villafuerte, Villarica.
With a vote of 241 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, House Bill number 7355 is approved on third and final reading. And with a vote of 243 in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 abstentions, House Bill number 7499. Therefore, House Bill 7355 and 7499 are hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider for the third reading House Bill number 7487 and 7488, and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the measure, and thereafter and call the roll for nominal voting. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the Secretary General is directed to read the titles of House Bill 7487 and 7488, and thereafter to call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill number 7487, an act renewing for another 25 years the franchise granted to Tagbilaran Broadcasting System, presently known as Tagbilaran Broadcasting System Incorporated, under Republic Act number 8149, entitled An Act Granting the Tagbilaran Broadcasting System a franchise to construct, install, operate, and maintain radio and television broadcasting stations in the Visayas region and for other purposes. House Bill number 7488, an act granting the city government of Davao a franchise to construct, install, operate, and maintain radio broadcasting stations in Davao City. Roll call of members in consideration of House Bill number 7487 and 7488. Abante, Abaya, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg Saldivar, Abunda, Acop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agabas, Agaraw, Aglipay, Aguinaldo, Albano, Almario, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Matba, Amatong, Angara, Aragones, Arbison, Arenas, Arroyo, Atienza, Aumentado, Babasa, Bagatsing, Balindong, Banyes Nograles, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Bersaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Bendigan, Belmonte, Benitez, Bernos, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondoc, Bordado, Bravo, Brosas, Bulot, Bustos, Kabatbat, Cabochan, Cabredo, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cawagdan, Cari, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Fredinil, Cayetano Alan Peter Compañero, Cayetano Maria Laarni, Celeste, Chato, Chipeco, Chungalaw, Angelica, Coelizaldi, Cuangco, Collantes, Sologo, Cua, Cuaresma, Cueva, Colyamat, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Daza de Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor Lawrence, Defensor Michael, Del Mar de los Santos de los Montalia, Demaporo Abdullah, Demaporo Muhammad Khalid, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael III, D. Ian Paul, Ebcas, Ecleo, Ilago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buhain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Fariñas Ria, Fariñas, Rudy, Cesar, Fernandez, Fernando, Ferrer, Juliet, Fer Luis, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Frasco, Fuentebella, Gaite, Garbin, Garcia, Jose Enrique, Garcia, Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Garin Janet, Garin Sharon, Gasataya, Gatchalian, Gato Herongo, Edgo Mark, Gonzaga, Gonzales, Aurelio Dong, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goroseta, Gico, Gullas, Guya, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Lusos, Javier Jimenez, Co, Elisa, Co, Wilton, Konghun, Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon, Lara Lasatin, Liachon, Legarda, Limlim Kaichong, Lopez Loyola, Losotan, Macapagal, Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Mangawang, Magunda Dato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez Martinez, Matba, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Momo, Natividad Naganyo, Nava Nieto, Noel, Nograles, Jericho, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Nunez Balanyaon, Ominal, Olivares, Ong Jose, Ong Ronnie, Ortega, Owana Dizon, Pacquiao Alberto, Pacquiao Rogelio, Padjernos, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panotes, Peña, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Puno, Kimbo, Radaza, Ramirez Sato, Rimulya, Revilla, Reyes, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Roman Romero, Romualdez, Ferdinand Romualdez, Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Sanchez, Sancopan, Santos Recto, Sarmiento, Saulug, Sevillano, Xiao, Silverio, Singson Mihan, Sinsuat, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez Aleta, Suarez David, Suntay, si Alvarado, Taduran Talyado, Tambunting, Tan Alisa, Tan Angelina, Tan Shamir, Tan Shari, Tan Sherny, Tejada Teves, Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tolentino, Torres Gomez, Tulfo, Tupas Chotor, T. Alan T. Diego, Umali Alfonso, Umali Maria Victoria, Unabia Ungab, Juliet Uy Rolando, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Vergara, Villa, Villafuerte, Villanueva, Brother Eddie, Villanueva, Noel, Villar, Villaras, Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Eric, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Ronaldo, Zamora Waikorat, Zarate, Zubiri. Second call for House Bill number 7487 and 7488. Abante, Abaya, Agaraw, Alvarez Senaro, Alvarez Pantaleon, Berzaga, Biron, Rosas, Bulot, Canama, Co Elizaldi, Colyamat, Dalipe, Duavit, Fernando, Fortun, Gonzales Nepcaldi, Gonzales Zandro, Guya, Co Wilton, Liachon, Magundadato, Marcoleta, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Mendoza, Mercado, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nolasco, Núñez Malañaon, Ong Jose, Ortega, Pineda, Remulla, Sagarbarilla, Salo, Sarmento, Silverio, Tan Shamir, Tan Sherny, Tejada, T. Alan, Villa, Villafuerte, Villar, Villarica.
And then you want to read the adoption.
With a vote of 243 in favor, 0 opposed, and 0 abstentions, House Bills numbers 7487 and 7488 are approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Secretary General be directed to immediately transmit to the Senate all of the bills that we approved on third reading today.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The Secretary General is so directed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, earlier when we conducted the reference of business, we inadvertently left out one committee report. And so I move, Mr. Speaker, that the Secretary General be directed to read out the committee report for referral to the appropriate committee.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved, and the Secretary General is directed to read the committee report for the proper referral.
Additional reference of business committee report, report number 472 of the committee.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee report, report number 472 of the Committees on Higher and Technical Education and Appropriations on House Bill number 7611.
To the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider for adoption House Resolution number 1168 and that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the resolution.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. The motion is approved, and the Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Resolution 1168.
House Resolution 1168, a resolution congratulating and commending Ms. Cristeta Pasya Comerford for receiving an honorary degree of Doctor of Human Letters from the University of the Philippines in recognition of the honor and prestige she has brought to the Philippines through her exemplary achievement as the first Asian executive chief at the White House of the United States of America.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we adopt House Resolution 1168.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the House Resolution 1168 is hereby adopted. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Resolution number 1173 and ask the Secretary General to be directed to read the title of the House Resolution. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Resolution 1173.
House Resolution 1173, resolution urging the Department of Energy to directly remit to the Municipality of Villanueva, Province of Misamis Oriental, its equitable share in the proceeds of utilization of the national wealth by the independent power producers located in the hosted by the local government unit.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt House Resolution number 1173.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. Motion is approved, and House Resolution 1173 is hereby adopted. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Resolution 1156 and ask the Secretary General to be directed to read the title of the measure. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The Chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Resolution 1156.
House Resolution 1156, resolution congratulating and commending Filipino pole vaulter Ernest John E.J. Obiena for winning the bronze medal in the 11th edition of International Association of Athletes Federations World Diamond League Athletics held in Monaco on August 15, 2020.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption of House Resolution 1156.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and House Resolution 1156 is hereby adopted. Majority Leader.
Ano na? Ito na. Mr. Speaker, under the calendar of business for the day, I move that we consider House Bill 7575 as contained in the committee report number 468. So move, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that the chairperson of the Committee on Economic Affairs be recognized, the Honorable Sharon Garin, to begin sponsorship of the measure.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and the Secretary General is directed to read the title of the measure.
House Bill 7575, an act establishing the Bulacan Airport City Special Economic Zone and Freeport, Province of Bulacan, and appropriating funds therefore.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the chairperson of the Committee on Economic Affairs, the Honorable Sharon Garin, be recognized to begin sponsorship of the measure. So moved.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and the Honorable Sharon Garin is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to request that the explanatory note be considered as the sponsorship speech, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the gentleman from the party list, SIBAC, Honorable Brother Eddie Villanueva, for his interpellation.
The Honorable Deputy Speaker, Brother Eddie Villanueva, is recognized for his interpellation. The Honorable Eddie Villanueva is apparently offline. Majority Leader.
Motion to suspend.
Session suspended.
Sige, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so
So you have to close the period of Session resumes. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker, our colleague, Deputy Speaker Villanueva, has decided no longer to not interpellate the sponsor anymore, and since Mr. Speaker, I apologize. We move that we suspend the session for a minute.
Session suspended.
Pero wala pa. Patasa.
Mag-interpolate siya. And then si Eddie is commitment pala.
And for this one,
Session resumes. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend consideration of House Bill number 757.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the consideration of House Bill 7575 is hereby suspended.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider bills under the calendar of business for Thursday and Friday, and pursuant to our rules, allow me to put forth an omnibus motion for the consideration of the following measures. House Bill number 7522 under Committee Report 446, House Bill 7528 under Committee Report 447, House Bill 7529 under Committee Report 448, House Bill 7530 under Committee Report 449, House Bill 7533 under Committee Report 450, House Bill 7534 under Committee Report 451, House Bill 7535 under Committee Report 452, House Bill 7536 under Committee Report 453, House Bill 7537 under Committee Report 454, House Bill 7539 under Committee Report 456, House Bill 7541 under Committee Report 457, House Bill 7543 under Committee Report 458, House Bill 7544 under Committee Report 459, House Bill 7545 under Committee Report 460, House Bill 7547 under Committee Report 462, House Bill 7556 under Committee Report 463, House Bill 7565 under Committee Report 464, House Bill 7566 under Committee Report 465, House Bill 7573 under Committee Report 466, House Bill 7574 under Committee Report 467, and finally House Bill 7576 under Committee Report 469. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we consider the respective explanatory notes on the measures as the sponsorship speech of said measures.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no member wishes to interpolate on the said local bills, I move that we terminate the period of interpellation.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the period of interpellation and debate is hereby closed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments and approve the committee amendments, if any, as contained in the respective committee reports of the aforementioned bills.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no individual amendments, I move that we terminate the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the period of amendments is hereby closed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we vote on second reading on the local bills so mentioned. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
All those in favor of the omnibus motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. The omnibus motion is hereby approved on second reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we resume consideration of House Bill number 7575 as contained in Committee Report number 468, that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the measure.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Bill 7575.
House Bill 7575, an act establishing the Bulacan Airport City Special Economic Zone and Freeport, Province of Bulacan, and appropriating funds therefore.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the parliamentary status is that we are in the period of sponsorship and debate. And to continue sponsorship of the measure, I move that we recognize the chairperson of the Committee on Economic Affairs, Representative Sharon Garin, and to interpolate our distinguished sponsor, I move that we recognize our colleague from Party List Gabriela, Representative Arlene Brosas.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion
No
is approved.
audio.
And the Honorable Garin is recognized to sponsor the measure, and the Honorable Arlene Brosas is recognized for her interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed. Congresswoman Brosas, please proceed. Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend the session to
Session
fix our
suspended.
technical difficulties.
Session resumes. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we resume our interpellations between our sponsor, Representative Garin, and our interpellator, Representative Brosas.
The Honorable Brosas is recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, narinig na ba ako?
Naririnig po namin kayo, Congresswoman Brosas. Please proceed.
Kinabahan ako doon, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you. Maaari po ba nga ating buting sponsor ay sumagot ng ilang mga katanungan kaugnay sa bill?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ipinasa ng kapulungang ito ang panukalang prangkisa para sa Bulacan Airport na proyekto ng San Miguel Corporation. Bagamat marami kaming di-resolbadong tanong, ngayon tila hinahabol natin ang panukalang Special Economic Zone sa Bulacan na sinasabing kaugnay ng Bulacan Airport. For clarity po, ang tinutukoy po ba na Airport City ay ito mismong Bulacan Airport City Special Economic Zone and Freeport Authority? Tama po ba, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, the economic zone proposed in the bill includes the airport and the airport city. But it added to that is the additional area for the economic zone, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, naitanong natin ito dahil sa franchise for the Bulacan Airport under the section on tax benefits ay may tax exemptions. Hindi lang para sa construction ng Bulacan Airport, kundi pati sa construction, establishment, development, and operation of the airport city. Ngayon, under this measure, creating the Bulacan Airport City Special Zone, Ecozone, mayroon ding banggit na entitled ang Ecozone locators na sa existing fiscal incentives under the Special Economic Zone Act and under the Omnibus Investment Code.
Tama po ba? Mas mahaba ang duration at mas exhaustive ang tax benefit na nakasaad sa prangkisa kumpara sa umiiral na tax incentives for special economic zones. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the franchise of the airport is a separate bill, and it is a grant of a separate right to a private capacity, to the private individual, meaning SMC. Currently, the franchise provides tax incentives para sa airport and the airport city. And you have to distinguish the airport city and the airport from the economic zone. Ang economic zone po, we are giving fiscal incentives as may be provided under EO 226, the Omnibus Investments Code, and also any other fiscal incentives as may be provided by law. Iba po ang economic zone from the franchise, because economic zone is a government entity while the franchise is granting certain rights or privileges to an individual. And it is not, this economic zone is not giving an economic zone to the individual or to SMC, but it is a government entity. So separate po ito, ma'am. Mr. Speaker.
So, Mr. Speaker, anong mag-a-apply na tax regime sa airport city? Yung nasa Special Economic Zone Act ba o yung nakasaad sa prangkisa ng Bulacan Airport?
Mr. Speaker, the airport and the airport city, as provided in the franchise, will have the tax benefits provided in the franchise granted to them, while the rest of the area of the economic zone will have the privileges provided by this bill. So ang airport and the airport city, due to since it's a specific for SMC, only SMC can avail of the privileges as a franchisee. Hindi po yung ibang companies within the economic zone. Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, kaugnay ng nakasaad dito na fiscal incentives, sinasabi na kapag foreign investor ka na may at least $200,000 invest sa ecozone ay entitled ka sa investor's visa. Tama po ba?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Hindi ba napakababa nito? Parang 10 million lang na investment ito, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, this is following what is currently being applied, so we don't want to distinguish, and ito po yung standard po ng mga ecozone bills na pumapasa po sa Committee on Economic Affairs. Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, kaugnay pa na tanong, mahalagang maklaro po yung Section 3 ng measure kung saan hindi man directly related to taxes, isipin ito ng tax administration. Ayon sa Section 3, the specific needs and bounds of the Bulacan Ecozone shall be more particularly defined in a presidential proclamation that shall be issued for this purpose, provided that the lands embraced therein shall be public lands and contiguous to one another. Tama po ba, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, that has been amended by the committee already. The public lands have been deleted, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Tinanong po natin, Mr. Speaker, kailangan iklaro po natin kasi why do we leave this open-ended and up to the discretion of the President? Change na po pala paano din natin matitiyak ang jurisdiction ng tax collection and administration agencies at kahit ng LGUs. Kung 10,000 hectares ito, napakalaking area nito, katumbas ito ng 2,700 Philippine Arena. Ilang bayan ang sasaklawin nito, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. But if you compare it to other ecozones around the area or the rest of the Philippines, malalaki po talaga yung mga ecozones, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, hindi ba dahil sa sasaklawin ng proyektong ito, maituturing na biggest economic zone in the country's history itong proposed Bulacan Airport City Special Economic Zone?
Mr. Speaker, if you, Subic has 13,000 hectares, Clark has 31,000 hectares, Bataan is smaller, it's 1,600 hectares, Mr. Speaker. So this is not necessarily the biggest, Mr. Speaker, depending kung ano po ang may issue ng presidential proclamation.
Now, Mr. Speaker, malinaw sa kasaysayan yung pag-iral ng eco-zones, no, sa ating bansa na ang mga zones na ito ay kinatatampukan ng malawakang paglabag sa karapatan ng mga manggagawa. Halimbawa, sa Hanjin at iba pang shipyards sa Subic, halos araw-araw may namamatay o di kaya'y nasusugatan ng manggagawa sa aksidente sa loob ng pagawaan. Kontraktwal ang libo-libong manggagawa at mahigpit na ipinagbabawal ang pag-uunyon. Bagamat lumilika ng trabaho ang sinasabing Airport City Eco Zone, duda kaming magiging kakaiba ito sa mga umiiral na eco zones sa usapin ng labor violations. Paano po matitiyak ng bakses pa ang labor compliance monitoring nito? Papayagan ba ang DOLE na magsagawa ng labor inspections dito, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the agencies are not restrained from doing their own inspections, pero isang measure as a safeguard din para to protect the interest, especially kung yung manggagawa po ay galing Bulacan. We have provided that at least 3 members of the board shall come from one from the province, one from the town, from the municipality, and another from the legislative district. So they will be fully represented in the governing board of the EcoZone, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, tinatanong po natin to kasi sa mga karanasan natin sa mga nakaraan. Isang usapin din kaugnay ng eco-zones ay ang effective jurisdiction ng local government units, di ba? Kasi parang may sariling ano yan may sariling paggobyerno mismo sa loob ng mga eco-zones na hindi napapakialaman ng iba pang mga for example, mga LGUs, no? Nakita natin to halimbawa sa kaso ng HTI factory sa Cavite. Actually, saksi po ako dito nung nagkasunog dati sa HTI, kailangan po natin pumunta doon at tingnan o tugunan yung mga kahilingan ng mga manggagawa na sa loob ng ano. Pero mukha po talaga siyang nagsasarili, no? Na nag-a-administer ng sarili niya. Meron siyang sarili talaga niyang hindi ka kaagad-agad makakapasok, no? Na ultimong ang lokal na pamahalaan at maging ang DOLE ay hindi pinapapasok sa loob ng eco-zone. Magiging hiwalay na teritoryo rin pa itong Bulacan eco-zone na hindi sakop ng jurisdiction ng Bulacan. Ito po ang worry namin kasi minsan napakahirap, no, na matukoy kung ano ang kalagayan o ano ang mga labor violations sa loob mismo ng mga eco-zones na ito kasi talagang hindi pinapapasok ang ibang entity. Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, as a safeguard, the board of the EcoZone is actually well represented, one from the province of Bulacan, one from the legislative district, one from the municipality of Bulacan, domestic investors, foreign investors, and also the workers in the Bulacan Economic Zone will be represented in the governing board, Mr. Speaker, so that they will protect the rights of all those affected, especially those who are residents of the city or the municipality or even the province, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, isa lang po ba yung ina-allot or ina-allocate na para sa manggagawa? Isang seat or isang position sa board?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
And Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, yung worker po ba na ito ay ire-represent niya bilang isang sa buong, kung may union dyan, ire-represent niya ang buong union dyan, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor?
Mr. Speaker, the bill does not specify, but there are requirements as to Filipino citizen, good moral character, integrity, probity. There are no specifics as to if it represents a certain workers' union, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, sa inisyal, may mga kumpanya na bang nagpahayag ng pamumuhunan sa economic zone na ito? Ano-ano po ang mga industriya na ito? Services po ba sa manufacturing o anuman?
Mr. Speaker, we are still not, there is no concrete pa na manifest ng interest, Mr. Speaker. But since we are anticipating the building of the airport there and the airport city, we are anticipating now, the government wants to take advantage also of the economic boom in Bulacan municipality as well as in the province para ma-take advantage din po ng surrounding areas ang economic activity surrounding the airport and the airport city, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, lahat ng in-expect natin, no, na industry na papasok dito ay may kaugnayan sa operasyon ng San Miguel Airport. Tama po ba?
Can you repeat it, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, lahat ba ng mga inaasahan natin na industriya na papasok dito, from the services, manufacturing, etc., lahat may kinalaman sa operasyon ng San Miguel Airport?
No, Mr. Speaker. The proximity of the airport, Mr. Speaker, will facilitate trade, but it does not necessarily have to be related to the airport activities, Mr. Speaker. Mas madali lang po ang negosyo kung if the logistics is easier and it's cheaper, so the ecozone will allow that to the different industries, Mr. Speaker.
Madam Sponsor, may mga Chinese investors at contractors po ba na interesado mamuhunan dito?
Mr. Speaker,
may mga Chinese investors or contractors po ba na gustong mamuhunan dito? Interesadong mamuhunan dito?
Mr. Speaker, I am not personally aware of any specific Chinese company or individual interested, but the law does not prohibit them from investing or putting up their industry or business in the ecozone, Mr. Speaker, subject to limitations, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, wala pa pong nagpapahayag.
Mr. Speaker, we are still at the infant stage of creating the ecozone, especially since the airport is still not built. But and we still have to define the metes and bounds of the ecozone through a presidential declaration. So right now, Mr. Speaker, these are all still not concrete. There are interested parties, but still we are not aware of any specific or clear manifestation from any investors, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, alam po natin na kanina nga sinabi na malaki, no, yung ecozone project na ito sa ating bansa. Ang pinangangambahan po namin ay mag-entail ito ng massive land conversion. So sa target po na 10,000 hectares, ilang pamilya ang tinatayang maapektuhan nito?
Mr. Speaker, as of at present, the estimate is 200 families. It could be more, depending on the size of the ecozone, but that is why we made it a point to include in the governing board the municipality, the legislative district, and the Bulacan province, as well as the workers, in order for them to make sure that wala pong madi-displace, or if ever they are displaced, their constituents are protected, and that is why they are put there, para po, yan po yung checks and balance po for the ecozone, Mr. Speaker.
Madam Sponsor, mayroon na bang naging consultations na naisagawa with them?
With the Committee on Economic Affairs, Mr. Speaker, we have invited several sectors as well as agencies, And if we are referring to the airport, construction of the airport, I do believe that NEDA has already given the concession, and they are already in the first stage, and then they're coming up with the second stage. So for NEDA and the OTR and all the other agencies, we assume the regularity of their performance of their duties, so due consultation has been made, Mr. Speaker.
Nasaan po yung resettlement plan para sa kanila? Mapapakita po ba kayong resettlement plan para sa kanila?
For the Ecozone, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, kasi you mentioned na meron ng naging consultation. So I believe kung meron pong consultation, merong mga napag-usapan kung paano ang resettlement plan para dun sa mga Ecozone areas. Now, where is it, Madam Sponsor?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The resettlement plan or the approval or the consultation was done for the airport, Mr. Speaker. The Ecozone is still in an infant stage, and we still have to define the boundaries of the Ecozone. So this is still in process, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, ano tayo ng batas pero wala pa palang resettlement plan para sa mga tao.
Because, Mr. Speaker, wala pa nga po yung meets and bounds of the Ecozone. And then when the time comes that we define and the President issues, before that consultation will be done before the President issues the proclamation on the meets and bounds. But as of right now, Mr. Speaker, there is no boundaries yet to speak of. So we will tackle the consultation when we define and determine what is the area of the Ecozone, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, are you familiar with the counter-environmental impact assessment of fissures against the aerotropolis?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Nasa niyo po ba to, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor?
No, Mr. Speaker, because this is an Ecozone bill, and I think that was submitted for the airport, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, ito po yung voice and assertion of local people regarding the adverse impacts of the aerotropolis to Bulacan communities. Totoo pong ganon, pero sasakupin niya rin yung ilang mga areas kaugnay ng Ecozone. So, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, ito pong nilikha ng mga mamamayan ng Taliptip, no, at Ubando, at samahan ng mga mangingisda at mamamayan ng Bulacan at Ubando, ng Agham, ng mga students and science workers ng UP Diliman at ACAP KA Manila Bay. Sa kanilang pahayag, sinasabi nila, maraming mga questions po dito kaugnay sa displacement and loss of Bulacan fishers' livelihoods can negatively affect their capacity to secure good housing, healthcare, education, and fulfilling social life. So, paano po natin matitiyak sa mga policies and action na hindi ito magli-lead sa massive displacement of people at hindi ang implication ay displacement of people's overall well-being, dignity, and development. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor.
Mr. Speaker, again, I think their position was issued against the construction of the airport as well as the AeroCity. This opinion from such group was not submitted to the Ecozone bill or the Committee on Economic Affairs, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, hindi ba ito kasama dapat sa dinidiscuss din sa Ecozone areas since magdi-displace ng livelihoods ng mga tao? Hindi lang po doon sa mga particular na lugar na yon, kundi sa mga karatig bayan na maaapektuhan dahil 10,000 hectares po yun diba? sinasabi natin, ang eco zone?
10,000 hectares is, I think, what is expected by SMC for their airport and in the AeroCity, Mr. Speaker. But if I understand it correctly, the San Miguel Corporation has also relocated due to the airport in the airport city, has done relocation also. They have built houses for the 200 families and have given them livelihood. I'm not so familiar with all the details, but I think that has been reported in the news already, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, Ginong Sponsor, Madam Sponsor, ginawa na kitang Ginoo. Madam Sponsor, walang masama sa pagkakaroon ng bagong airport at kakapit nitong mga negosyo. Subalit malaking tinik sa lalamunan ng ordinaryong mamayan kung hindi naman silang pangunahing makikinabang. Kaya po mahalaga yung sinasabi na counter environmental impact assessment ng mismong mga tao o mangingisda doon sa lugar o nakatira dahil sila po talaga yung maapektuhan nito. Kaya mahalaga po yung boses nila. Maaring sabihin na may trabahong lilikhain, ngunit nakakatiyak naman tayo na malayo ito sa disente at regular na trabahong ninanais ng mga manggagawa. Lalo na, alam niyo po, yung mga mangingisda hindi naman ganun kabilis mag-adjust sa trabaho. Hindi kaagad-agad nila ma-appreciate yung mga ganitong mga pagbabago. So unless sabi nga natin, disente at regular na trabahong ninanais ito ng mga manggagawa. Kada taon po nadadagdagan yung ating mga special economic zones, pero hindi naman nagbabago ang kalidad ng trabaho natin sa bansa. Tapos, special treatment tayo sa mga foreign investors, pero sa mga manggagawa talaga nating Pilipino, na dapat yun yung unang-una nating tinutulungan, kailangan po natin talagang pagtuunan ng pansin ito. Hindi lang yung pagkakaroon ng ecozones, kung over the years, hindi naman nagbabago yung kalagayan o yung mga trabaho na malaalipin sa mga manggagawa. Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor.
Mr. Speaker, although this is the economic zone bill, but it is based on the franchise. It is couched on the franchise of SMC on the airport and the airport city. For example, Mr. Speaker, I do not believe that SMC has been remiss in its duties in relocating the 200 to 300 households around Ldrf in Bulacan, Mr. Speaker. They have actually relocated some 300, they actually have 369 beneficiaries, and they have given them concrete houses and have given their current homes appraised value of around 100,000 to 250,000 pesos, Mr. Speaker. And by relocating them, they have given them livelihood, as well as training in case they want to be part of the construction. They have given them access for trainings to be construction workers, Mr. Speaker, in case they should want to. In case they want to go back to their provinces, they were given such options, but many have decided to stay in their area. So, Mr. Speaker, all this work that have been done not only by the government, but especially by San Miguel Corporation, has been accepted widely by the residents of Ldrf, Mr. Speaker. So I do not believe that they have been remiss in their responsibility, considering that many will be relocated, but they have taken responsibility in relocating them in good places, in good houses, with the expectation of having good livelihood, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, bilang panghuli po sa interpelasyon ko, nais kong i-quote yung mangingisda na nakatira sa Bulacan. No? Sinasabi ni Bio, ito po ang ugat, ang milyon-milyong kikitain ng proyektong ito. Sa kawalan ng pag-intindi sa atin na maliliit na mga mangingisda, ito lang ang hinahabol nila itong milyon-milyon. Hindi sila papanig dito sa mga mangingisda dahil sa mga mangingisda, wala silang makukuhang malaking milyon. Hindi natin iyon kayang ibigay. Kaya dito sila sa milyon-milyon pumapanig. At binibigyan tayo ng pangako na tayo ay bibigyan ng sinasabing tulong o supol. Pero hindi tayo ang makikinabang sa pangako niyan. Maraming itatayong proyekto, hindi lang ito na airport na ito. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Maraming salamat, Madam Sponsor.
Mr. Speaker, just to respond lastly, the SMC has actually undertaken mangrove restoration in a few hundred hectares, and they are actually propagating the development of the mud crabs industry. Mr. Speaker, if you consider the area around that airport, it is already silted, Mr. Speaker, because of the flooding as well as the pollution from Metro Manila, and I do believe that their production has gone down due to that, and this is a good measure to do, because since their income is dwindling, and now with the restoration of the mangroves as well as the dredging of the river, as well as giving them more livelihoods options other than just fishing, I think the numbers show that their lives and their livelihood will improve with such project, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, last na lang po.
Yes, please
Hindi
proceed.
pa po kasi nasagot ito, no? Yung sinasabi natin na the Aerotropolis as a development project neglects the interest of the most vulnerable and marginalized sectors. And next po, reclamation exacerbates fisher poverty, kasi ito po ay mga issue na itinanong na natin even dun sa usapin ng pagtatayo ng Aerotropolis, ng airport. Reclamation and the airport project incur heavy social and environmental costs despite claims of the promise of economic development. And lastly, the Aerotropolis project spells environmental destruction. Lalong na po sa mga deltas, wetlands, and lakes. No? Kaya po sinasabi natin na hindi siya bagay sa airport construction. But anyway, Mr. Speaker, yun po yung panghuli, no, na gusto nating idiin na binabanggit doon sa adverse impacts nitong airport city and even yung ecozone. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other member who wishes to interpolate, I move that we close the period of sponsorship and debate.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and the period of interpellation and debate is terminated. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that we open the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Period of amendments is hereby open. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of committee amendments.
Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Period of committee amendments is open.
Mr. Speaker, there being no committee amendments, I move that we close the period of committee amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and the period of committee amendments is closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of individual amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and the period of individual amendments is hereby open. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Crystal Bagatsing from the City of Manila for her individual amendment. So move.
The Honorable Crystal Bagatsing is hereby recognized.
Mr. Speaker, we propose the following amendments. First, under Section 5F, page 3, line 24, add the phrase, through a presidential proclamation issued for the purpose, after the word necessary.
Accepted, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, in behalf of the majority, I move that we adopt said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and the amendment is approved. Is accepted.
Mr. Speaker, on Section 9, page 6, line 1, delete games and amusement.
What does the sponsor say?
Accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we move to accept the amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is accepted. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for Section 9H, page 5, lines 2 and 3, delete the phrase or opinion.
What does the sponsor say?
Accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, I move that we accept the amendment.
There being no objection, the chair accepts the amendment. Majority Leader.
Section 10, item 1, page 7, line 19, replace Director General with Socio-Economic Planning Secretary.
Sponsor says?
Accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we accept the amendment. So moved.
The amendment is accepted.
On Section 10, page 7, lines 24 to 26, interchange items 5 and 6.
Accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we accept the amendment. So moved.
The amendment is accepted.
Under Section 11, page 8, line 27, delete the word law and add the phrase civil service law and regulations.
What does the sponsor say?
Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we accept the amendment.
The amendment is accepted.
Section 14, page 9, line 27, delete the phrase has the following qualifications.
What does the sponsor say?
Accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we accept the amendment. So moved.
The amendment is accepted.
Section 14, page 9, Section 14, item D, page 10, line 4, replace the word institutionalized with confined in an institution.
Accept,
what does the
Mr.
sponsor say? The Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we accept. So moved.
The amendment is accepted.
Section 14, page 10, line 9, delete and from and or.
Accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we accept. So moved.
Amendment is accepted.
And lastly, Chapter 5, in the title, after the word miscellaneous, add the word provision.
What does the
Accept,
sponsor
Mr.
say? Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we accept said amendment. So moved.
The amendment is accepted. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no other individual amendment, I move that we close the period of individual amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and the period of amendments is hereby closed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to recognize the Honorable Crystal Bagatsing from the City of Manila once again for her manifestation.
The manifestation of the Honorable Bagatsing is in order.
Mr. Speaker, I would just like to manifest that the following members would like to be co-authors of House Bill 7483, and the following members are, number 1, Representative Gavini Apple Pancho, Florida Rida Robes, Lorna C. Silverio, Henry R. Villarica, and Antonio Tonipet Albano.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the aforementioned members be made co-authors of the said measure. So
Is there
moved.
any objection? The chair hears none. That motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that we vote on second reading.
As many as are in favor
I'm
of
sorry,
House Bill
Mr.
7...
Speaker, sorry. I retract that motion. Mr. Speaker, I move that we include additional co-authors to House Bills number 7608, 7522, 7528, 7529, 7530. This is a different bill. I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, I withdraw said motion and I return to my previous motion I move that we vote on second reading on House Bill number 7575 as contained in Committee Report number 468. So move.
As many as are in favor of House Bill 7575, please say aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 7575 is hereby approved on second reading. Majority Leader.
Let me return to that previous motion, Mr. Speaker. I move that we include additional co-authors to House Bills number 7608, 7522, 7528, 7529, 7530, 7533, 7534, 7535, 7536, 7537, 7539, 7541, 7543, 7544, 7545, 7547, 7556, 7565, 7566, 7573, 7574, and 7575, and House Resolution number 1168, 1173, and 1156 as contained in the list to be submitted by the Committee on Rules. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. That motion is approved.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that we consider on second reading House Bill number 7068 as contained in Committee Report 455 and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the said measure. So move.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Bill 7608.
House Bill 7608, an act extending the period of availment of estate tax amnesty, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 11213, otherwise known as the Tax Amnesty Act.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that we recognize the Honorable Joey Salceda of the Committee on Ways and Means for his sponsorship speech. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved, and the Honorable Salceda is recognized for his sponsorship speech.
Oy, start my video. Oh.
Kong Joey, your video is now on and we can hear you loud and clear.
The Honorable Salceda will please proceed with his sponsorship speech.
Buti tinignan ko.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps I can make an additional motion to open the period of sponsorship and debate, and then after recognize Kong Joey for his sponsorship speech. So
Is there
moved.
any objection? The chair hears none. The period of sponsorship and debate is hereby open. The Honorable Joey Salceda is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Alan Peter Cayetano. On behalf of the Committee on Ways and Means, I would like to sponsor Committee Report number 455 based on House Bill 7068, which we deliberated on and approved without amendment. This bill amends Section 6 of Republic Act 11213, or the Tax Amnesty Law, and extends the period of availment of estate tax amnesty from 2 years to 4 years. The estate tax amnesty allows the transfer of long unsettled estates, so this can be made productive. The original deadline of availment and payment on April 23, 2020 has since been extended 4 times, with a new deadline being set until December 31, 2020. However, only 23,911 persons have availed of the amnesty, earning only 1.362 billion out of the potential of at least 6 billion plus. Thus, it is up that we extend it through legislation. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and we humbly seek the immediate approval of this measure.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, there being no member who wishes to interpolate, I move that we close the period of sponsorship and debate.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and the period of sponsorship and debate is hereby closed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The period of amendments is open.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of committee amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The period of committee amendments is hereby open.
There being no committee amendments, I move that we close the period of committee amendments.
There being no objection, the period of committee amendments is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of individual amendments.
Period of individual amendments is hereby open.
Mr. Speaker, there being no member who wishes to introduce any individual amendments, I move that we close the period of individual amendments.
Period of individual amendments is hereby closed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that we vote on second reading House Bill number 7068 as contained in Committee Report 455.
As many as are in favor of House Bill 7608, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill 7608 is approved on second reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that we resume consideration on second reading of House Bill 5989 as contained in Committee Report 200 and direct the Secretary General to read the title of the said measure. So move.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved and the Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Bill 5989.
House Bill 5989, an act creating the Department of Disaster Resilience, defining its mandate, powers, and functions, and appropriating funds therefore.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the status of said measure is that it is in the period of sponsorship and debate, or rather that we had already terminated the period of sponsorship and debate. I move that we recognize the Honorable Marvy Marino, Chair of Government Reorganization, to sponsor said measure.
The Honorable Marino is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that we open the period of amendments.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Period of amendments is open.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we open the period of committee amendments.
Is there any objection? Period of committee amendments is open.
Mr. Speaker, there being no committee amendments, I move that we close the period of committee amendments.
The period of committee amendments is hereby closed. Majority Leader.
I now move that we open the period of individual amendments.
The period of individual amendments is hereby open. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Deputy Speaker Ferdinand Hernandez for his individual amendment. So move.
The Honorable Deputy Speaker Hernandez is hereby recognized.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask the sponsor if he is amenable to amendments. Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
On Section 3, definition of terms, page 9, line 34, and page 10, lines 1 and 2, delete the entire sentence. National continuity policy refers to a policy aimed at the development of organizational culture that has the ability to provide a minimum level of service during interruptions, emergencies, disasters, and return to full operations quickly.
What does the sponsor say?
Accepted, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we accept said amendment. So moved.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is accepted.
On Section 3, definition of terms, page 12, lines 23, 25, delete the entire subparagraph and insert a new subparagraph to read as follows. KK, framework agreement shall refer to a written agreement between a procuring entity and a supplier of service provider that identifies the terms and conditions under which specific purchases are made for the duration of the agreement. The framework agreement is in the nature of an option contract between the procuring entity and the bidders, granting the procuring entity the option to either place an order for any of the goods or services identified in the framework agreement list or buy or not buy at all within the period of the framework agreement and rearrange the succeeding paragraphs accordingly.
What does the sponsor say?
We
Mr.
accept,
Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we accept said amendment. So moved.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
On Section 9, Powers and Functions of Secretary, page 23, line 27, insert a subparagraph K to read as follows. Serve as member of the Government Procurement Policy Board, GPPB, and rearrange the subparagraph accordingly.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the majority, we accept said amendment. So moved.
Is there any objection on the part of the House? The chair hears none. The amendment is accepted.
On Section 25, Regional Disaster Resilient Offices, page 30, line 3, between the words regional in offices, delete the words disaster resilience. Mr. Speaker.
Sponsor, what does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
On behalf of the majority, Mr. Speaker, we accept said amendment. So moved.
Is there any objection on the part of the House? The chair hears none. The amendment is accepted.
On Section 26, Regional Disaster Resilience Director, page 30, line 9, delete the entire phrase and in lieu thereof, substitute the phrase to read. Section 26, Regional Director, each RO and the NCR shall. Mr. Speaker.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
On behalf of the majority, we accept said amendment. So moved.
Is there any objection on the part of the House? The chair hears none. The amendment is accepted.
On Section 27, Powers and Function of RDROs and MMDRO, page 30, delete lines 14 and 15, and in lieu thereof, substitute the phrase to read as follows. Section 27, Powers and Function of ROs and NCR. The ROs and the NCR shall have the following powers and functions. Mr. Speaker.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
On behalf of the majority, we accept. So moved.
Is there any objection on the part of the House? The chair hears none. The amendment is accepted.
On Section 37, Roles and Responsibilities of Stakeholders, page 35, line 25, between the word D and the comma, delete the word RDRO and in lieu thereof, substitute the word RO. Mr. Speaker.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
On behalf of the majority, we accept. So moved.
Is there any objection on the part of the House? The chair hears none. The amendment is accepted.
On Section 42, Management of Humanitarian Assistance, page 35, line 22, between the words with and of, delete the word Section 105 and in lieu thereof, substitute the phrase Sections 120 and 121. Mr. Speaker.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
On behalf of the majority, we accept. So moved.
Is there any objection on the part of the House? The chair hears none. The amendment is accepted.
On Section 43, International Humanitarian Assistance, page 35, lines 26, 27, between the comma and the word Bureau, delete the phrase in coordination with, and in lieu thereof, insert the phrase in consultation with the Bureau of Immigration and Mr. Speaker.
What does the speaker? What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve the amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 53, Mandatory and Remedial Measures, page 40, line 20, insert the subparagraph to read as follows. Paragraph D, use the alternative methods of procurement under Article 15 of Republic Act RA number 9184, otherwise known as the Government Procurement Reforms Act, its implementing rules and regulation, and other issuances of the Government Procurement Policy Board by the Department, LGUs, or the relevant government instrumentalities in relation to the urgent procurement of emergency works, goods, and services to effectively respond to, quickly respond to disasters, and build forward better. Mr. Speaker.
What does the distinguished sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
On behalf of the majority, Mr. Speaker, we accept. So moved.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 55, Fund Regulation, page 41, line 8, delete the phrase which applies specifically to the Disaster Resilience Fund. Mr. Speaker.
What does the distinguished sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
On behalf of the majority, we accept. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 57, People Survival Fund, same page, line 24, between true and comma, delete the word RDRO and substitute the word RO, Mr. Speaker.
What does the distinguished sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
On behalf of the majority, Mr. Speaker, we accept. So moved.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 59, Donations, Management, page 42, lines 1 and 2, between the words with and delete the phrase Section 103 of Republic Act number 10863 as amended. Substitute the phrase Sections 120 and 121 of Republic Act number 10863, otherwise known as the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act. Mr. Speaker.
What does the distinguished sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
On behalf of the majority, Mr. Speaker, we accept. So moved.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 63, Customs Duties and Tariffs on Donation, page 43, line 3, delete the phrase Republic Act number 10863 as amended and substitute the phrase Sections 120 and 121 of Republic Act number 10863, otherwise known as the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act, CMTA. Mr. Speaker.
What does the distinguished sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
On behalf of the majority, we accept. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On page 43, line 13, sections on the procurement to read as follows. Section 65, procurement, the department, the ROs, or the LGUs may resort to any of the alternative methods of procurement provided in RA number 9184, including negotiated procurement. Emergency cases under Section 53B of the RA number 9184 and any of the following instances. A, in case of imminent danger to life or property during state of calamity. B, when time is of the essence arising from natural or man-made calamities and other causes where immediate action is 1, to prevent damage to or loss of life or property, or 2, restore vital public services, infrastructure, facilities, and other public utilities. Furthermore, the department, ROs, or LGUs may use shopping under Section 52A of RA 9184 when there is unforeseen contingency requiring purchases. Section 66, alternative modes of procurement. The department, the ROs of LGUs may resort to any of the alternative methods of procurement provided in RA number 9184, including but not limited to shopping and negotiated procurement, emergency cases under Section 52A and 53B of RA number 9184. The department, ROs of LGUs may also use framework agreements in accordance with the rules and regulations of the GPPB. Section 67, special rules on procurement for reconstruction and rehabilitation of affected areas. A, the GPPB shall create special rules on procurement for services, goods, and materials to be used for reconstruction and rehabilitation efforts in case of natural disaster, including but not limited to and construction of post-disaster shelters and provision of service contracts to ensure procurement of quality-oriented goods, materials, and equipment to guarantee effective, efficient, and speedy procurement to achieve the goals of this Act. B, in case of procurement of services, goods, or materials for the reconstruction and rehabilitation efforts, whether from local or international sources, the Department and relevant government agencies shall provide less bureaucratic restriction or exemption from or reduction of customs duties. Section 68, procurement from qualified suppliers or contractors. The departments shall have the power to procure goods and services from either local or foreign suppliers or contractors for purposes of implementing programs, projects, activities related to disaster resilience and disaster management in accordance with RA number 9184, its IRR, and other issuances of GPPB. Section 69, Framework Agreements. The Department shall have authority to enter into framework agreements for the purpose of, among others, establishing a logistic system for efficient and prompt distribution of goods, equipment, and other materials required for disaster response and management, securing food, medicines, fuel, or other supplies for groceries, pharmacies, gas stations, and other sources in the event of a disaster in a specific area, ensuring an alternative source of power or water from private utilities in the event of disaster in specific area or other arranging the immediate supply of other goods, services, or equipment necessary for disaster response and management. The conditions, limitations, and parameters of contractors arrangement authorized under section shall be provided in RA number 9184 and its 2016 IRR. Section 17, the procurement, other procurement rules and policies. In view of the urgency and avoid unnecessary delays to procure goods, services, and implement projects for the purpose of providing responsive, effective, and efficient rescue, recovery, relief, and rehabilitation efforts for, and to continue the provision of basic services to disaster victims or disaster-affected areas, the GPPB shall issue appropriate resolutions, order policies to effectively implement the provisions of this Act, and renumber the succeeding sections accordingly. Mr. Speaker.
What does the distinguished sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader?
In behalf of the majority, we accept. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 69, prohibited acts under 44, line 17, between the words section and of delete number 85, and in lieu thereof substitute the number 70. Mr. Speaker.
What does the distinguished sponsor say?
Accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 74, dispute resolution mechanism, page 48, line 7, between the words the and the semicolon, delete the word RDRO and substitute the word RO, Mr. Speaker.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 79, transitory provision, page 49, line 32, between the words section and of delete number 92 and substitute number 77, Mr. Speaker.
But what does the sponsor say?
Accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment. So
Is
moved.
there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 81, transfer of resources, page 50, line 19, between the words section and shall, delete number 92 and substitute number 77.
What does the sponsor say?
Accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader?
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there
So
any
moved.
objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
That's all, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to the sponsor.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker Hernandez. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that we recognize the Honorable Joey Salceda for his individual amendments. So move.
The Honorable Salceda is recognized for his individual amendments.
Cannot unmute.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much. May the honorable sponsor, the great chairman of the Committee on Reorganization, accept a few individual amendments.
It would be an honor, Mr. Speaker.
First, on Section 3, definition of term, page 10, line 26, between the comma and climatological, comma, delete the word and.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment. So
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On the same page, line 27, after the semicolon, insert the phrase to read. Biological events such as epidemics or pandemics caused by outbreaks of viral, bacterial, parasitic, fungal, or prion infectious diseases affecting human, animal, or plant life, insect infestations, or swarms, and extraterrestrial events such as meteorite or asteroid strikes.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 4, creation and mandate of the Department of Disaster Resilience, subparagraph C, paragraph 14, line 30, delete the provision, and in lieu thereof, replace with the following to read. Number 2, extreme temperature, close open parenthesis, heat wave or cold wave, comma, extreme weather conditions, close open parenthesis, drought or excessive rainfall. And number 3, wildfire, close open parenthesis, forest or land fires. And letter D, biological and related hazard. Number 1, epidemic / pandemic, dust, viral, bacterial, parasitic, fungal, prion, infectious diseases. And number 2, insect infestation, dust, grasshoppers and locusts. Letter E, terrestrial, dust, meteorite / asteroid impact. Your Honor.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On page 4, section 4, creation and mandate of the Department of Disaster Resilience, page 14, line 32, between the words programs and insert the phrase projects, activities, including disaster response, recovery, and rehabilitation when applicable, comma, close open quotation.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On page 15, line 1, between comma and colon, delete the words as applicable.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On section 4, creation and mandate of the Department of Disaster Resilience, page 15, line 7, insert a new paragraph to read, notwithstanding, comma, the mandates and powers herein shall be without prejudice to the President's directive to address natural, human-induced, or other disasters such as an epidemic.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 5, powers and functions of the department, page 15, line 14, delete the number 1 and substitute it with 2 and renumber the subparagraph accordingly.
What does the
Your
sponsor
Honor.
say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 5, powers and functions of the department, page 15, lines 6 and 7, between the comma and administer, delete the word and between the words administer and the, insert the words and control all. And this will read as follows. Receive, manage, administer, and control all the funds, assets, and properties received by the department to accomplish the purposes of this act.
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On page 18, incentives, page 26, line 12, delete the phrase subject to existing laws, rules, and regulations, and substitute with at the national and local levels.
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said
Is there any
amendment.
objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 11, on Section 19, retention of local DRRM offices and creation of local disaster resilience offices, page 26, line 29, insert a new paragraph to read as follows. Provinces, cities, or municipalities shall be exempted from the personal services limitation on local government budget in relation to the creation of the LDROs and the appointment of its officer and personnel.
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said
Is
amendment.
there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On Section 31, Reconstruction and Rehabilitation powers of the Department, page 33, lines 6 to 9, delete the whole provision, and in lieu thereof, replace with the following to read. Section 31, period. Reconstruction and Rehabilitation powers of the Department, titled, period. The Department shall be primarily responsible for the identification, planning, and funding of priority reconstruction and rehabilitation projects and programs on areas affected by disasters,
What does the sponsor say?
provided that the Department of Public Works shall be highways shall be the primary implementer of all infrastructure-related rehabilitation and reconstruction projects, including retrofitting of its structures to make them more resistant and resilient to the effects of natural disasters.
What does the sponsor say?
We accept, Mr. Speaker. I just want to correct the typo. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Thank you. Thank you. On Section 52,
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve.
Declaration of a State of Calamity, page 39, line 32, between the period and declaration, delete the number 52 and substitute with 51 and renumber the succeeding sections accordingly.
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we approve said amendment.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On the same page, line 21, insert a new section 57 to read as follows. Section 57, Supplemental Ldrf. The department may allocate and disburse funds to supplement an LGU's Ldrf based on parameters and requirements indicated in the IRR in determining such parameters and requirements. The IRR shall aim to provide supplemental funds to LGUs with low income and/or high exposure to natural hazards. Supplemental Ldrf shall, as much as possible, fill gaps or shortages in LGU resources to ensure that LGUs can implement disaster resilience measures such as, among others, implementing their Ldrp or provincial Ldrp, establishing their Ldros or PDROs, obtaining and/or maintaining the necessary equipment and staff in their Ldros or PDROs, and implementing the NDRF and the NDRPIP at the national levels, and renumber the succeeding sections accordingly.
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
On section 77, transfer and attachment, page 48, line 20, delete the words "and attachment."
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
And on my favorite, on section 80, interdepartmental relations and joint supervision, page 50, lines 1 to 50, delete the entire provision and in lieu thereof, replace with the following to read. Section 80, interdepartmental relations and coordination, period. Thus, the DDR shall continuously call upon the following departments: DOST for Pag-asa, or Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, or Pag-asa, and Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, semicolon, B, with DNR for the Geohazard Assessment and Engineering Geology section of the Mines and Geosciences Bureau, close open MGB, C, DOH for the Health Emergency Management Bureau, or HMB, and the DILG for the Bureau of Fire Protection, provided, that DDR and these departments shall establish systems and protocols for fostering interdepartmental relations and close coordination through sustained sharing of data, information technology, facilities, and other resources critical to the DDR, among others. Provided further that the said agency shall cooperate with the DDR in anticipation of, during, and as necessary in the determination of the DDR Secretary and perform agency mandates in close coordination with DDR as circumstances warrant in the aftermath of emergencies and disaster. Provided finally that Pag-asa, PHIVOLCS, and the Geohazards Unit of the MGB shall provide staff augmentation to DDR Operations Center as need arises, close quotation.
We accept,
Your
Mr.
Honor.
Speaker.
Is there any objection?
Thank you very much for accepting. On section 91, appropriation, page 52, line 20, insert the word and before the word transferred, and delete the words and attached between the comma and the word to, and the word to.
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection?
Thank you
The
very
chair
much,
hears
Your
none.
Honor.
The amendment is approved. The Honorable Salceda may proceed. Nangyari.
Mr. Speaker, 1 minute suspension.
Session suspended. O, so paano? Tapos na ba? Session resumes. Majority Leader.
Right. I move that we once again recognize the Honorable Salceda.
The
for his
Honorable
individual
Salceda is
amendments.
recognized.
Your Honor, the Chairman of the Committee on Government Reorganization, for my very last amendment on Section 92, Implementing Rules and Regulation, page 52, line 23, between the comma and the ND, insert the word GPPD.
We accept, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The amendment is hereby approved.
I'd like to
Thank
thank
you very
the
much,
Honorable Salceda.
Your Honors, and thank you very much to the great Chairman of the Committee on Government Reorganization. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Distinguished sponsor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Salceda, for the great amendments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that we suspend consideration of House Bill 5989 as contained in Committee Report 200.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. Consideration of House Bill 5989 is hereby suspended. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for a 1 minute suspension once again.
Session suspended.
Oh, yes.
Tapos na tayo? Meron na daw? Yung second reading, huwag na ako. Ang haba ng second reading, kung gagawin natin ng second reading, labing pa. Hindi na.
Okay na.
Yes. None. I don't need any help. They don't. What about you? Who's helping you? I mean, the other, ano mo, it's always you, every day. Yeah, it's your team, but then where are your ka-level? Where are your deputies? What about you? suit? That's, you spoke again? Made where? Why are you suited? Why are you suited?
Ano na, kasi hindi nagpapastress eh. Lockdown. Lockdown. Hindi kita.
Marami bang positive tayo? Medyo marami positive.
Antipolo, no?
Dapat tarantayin mo si John dito pag ano, pagbasa mo.
Boss, sorry late. Session resumes. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the nomination and election of Representative Jam Baronda of the Lone District of Iloilo City as member of the Committee on Appropriations. So move, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The appointment is hereby approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the adjournment to September 14, 2020, Monday at 3 p.m.
Session is adjourned until September 14 at 3 p.m.
Come on, guys.
Uy, picture mo na. Picture mo na. Tali ako.